Hello, everybody. It's been a while since I've been able to do one of these streams, so I'm looking forward to this. It should be a lot of fun today. As we've been talking about here, this is what I'm going to be working on today, is what you guys see in front of you. How-to streams once again. Okay, so I'm going to be walking you through the steps I did to make this helmet. Okay, you guys can recreate something like this helmet, or go off and do your own. Okay, so I'm excited to show you guys. Hello, everybody. Wow, early in the morning on a Saturday. So I'm just waiting for letting more people to join real quick before I start diving into this. Again, I'm going to be walking through you guys all the steps that I did to make this. So I want to make sure, number one, my audio is good. Number two, that we have video. Okay, so on my side, I am seeing everything fine on my side. Looking at my other system, just making sure that we're good. So it should be good now, the buffering. So it should be clearing up now for you. So it looks like it's good now. So let me know before I obviously start really going at this with you guys and showing you everything. So I'm gonna keep the image up on the left. Hey, Daisuke, on the left there, so you guys can always see what we're striving to go to. All right. And I'm just I'm just reading your guys' comments about. So is the buffering better now? Okay, buffering's gone now. Okay, I figured. Okay, good. It sounds good. All right, just wanted to make sure. Okay, so as I always say, let's buckle up and let's get into this. And as we go along here, I will be watching the chat and trying to answer as many questions that pop up as I'm doing this piece. So that way I can make sure you guys are getting all the information out of this stream that you possibly can, okay? Because that's what's also important for me, is that you guys are getting all the information about recreating something like this for yourselves. All right, so I'm just going to turn off the floor for now, and I'm going to start with a project to just go at this. So again, I started with something pretty simple, and when I'm doing this, I start with just a base mesh. Since I'm making a helmet for a character, I might as well start with the character, right? It makes sense to do that. So there are multiple characters that you guys can start with now with inside of ZBrush. So opening up the light box with is the comma key. It's been a while, I gotta get going. So you got this female character here, you got a male character here, you've got the demo soldier, you've got characters throughout here. I'm gonna start with today, I'm gonna go with, just because I also wanna make sure this is highlighted. Nick Zuccarella actually updated his male model for ZBrush. So in the version, a couple of versions ago, we gave you guys his update. So it's gotten like new polygrouping, new sculpt, it's got hair now. So he updated a bunch of things. So I'm gonna use this just because I wanna kind of highlight that this is also something that's new for us inside of ZBrush, okay? So I want to make sure you guys are aware of that. This has got, excuse me, it's got eyes and the skull and some teeth. He also has put layers on this, so you guys can do like open mouth, right? So now there's a layer that's opening the mouth. And of course, he's got that same thing on the teeth, and then arms down, if you want to have the arms down. So he's got layers here that he's already using. Okay, so I'm going to delete them. I don't need them. All right, and then I'm going to switch my material. I've set up a lighting that I like to have for this. So I'm going to select my basic material because I want to have this rim light that I put in there. All right, and I like having a little bit more darker, okay, color. So we're going to turn off just the material. So something like this. This is just me, a personal preference. It's just what I like to sculpt, and I usually sculpt in this. I know a lot of us will sculpt in, say, something like a madcap gray, which is great. Definitely sculpt in that. I prefer using one of the basic materials just because the lighting then will update. Because what you got to remember is madcap materials have the lighting baked into it. And I prefer, like if I was sculpting in real life clay, we're always moving lights around, right, to take a look at our sculpt. So I want to kind of replicate that again in ZBrush, okay? So that's why I've done that. And if you want to see my lighting, so I'll open this up. So I just got 2 lights. So I've got the main just key light that's sitting above the character. And then I made a rim light over here, and I've got like a color. And in fact, I'm making it pretty hot. What I mean by hot, having an intensity higher than 1, okay, is really going to be, you know, a little bit hotter or brighter than what really should be. Like 1 is in essence 100% brightness, right? Would be the way to look at this. So I just like playing with this. And then you've got this light here. And then to turn that in, just so you all know how to turn that into, turn that into a rim light, is you just click on this little orange circle. So if I click, see now the light's in front of the model again. If I click, now it's in the back of the model. So I just prefer to have that, okay? So this is the lighting I like to do, because then we're gonna start making this helmet. And I want to have that also, that little bit of lighting. It'll create a little more drama, if you will. Okay. To get the one question about maxing out of the way that you're asking, look, I'm super excited about this. There's a lot of stuff, honestly, that we cannot comment on due to regulations and laws that are in place right now. So, but I'm telling you, this is going to be an exciting time, these next decades of coming, of what we're going to be able to do inside of ZBrush. It's going to be pretty awesome. I've got things going through my head that I wish I could share with you all, but at this point I can't, because of regulations that are going through right now, the process. So we obviously will be updating you guys as we go along here. Don't worry, we're always going to be, I'm going to be moving along and working. So, and then I'm still streaming here, so we'll have a lot of fun. So unfortunately, I can't say too much, okay? So at this time, that's about all I can say based upon also what we've already released in our announcement. Okay, so I wish I could give you guys more information, but at this time, due to regulations, I can't actually give you more information. But I just want to let you know, I'm pretty excited, okay? I see your code coming through with the blinks. I like that. Okay, all right, but keep an eye. We'll definitely be sharing more. I can't comment anything about licensing or anything like that at this point in time, okay? So I would just buckle up and let's just, you know, let's go at this. I'm here with you. We're still here. We're moving along. I want to show you this project that I did specifically for this stream and make sure you guys are getting as much out of this as you can when you're with me, all right? So again, I've got some simple lighting in here. I just like to have this. I don't need for this what I'm doing. I'm just making a helmet, right? So I'm gonna go with no hair right now. Let's delete the hair. I don't need that. I'll keep the eyes. He also put in, right? I'm gonna get rid of the outer portion. I don't need that. I don't need that. And I don't need his teeth. Well, we can keep his teeth, I guess. I'm gonna ungroup it. So unstart it. So now we have something like this. So I want to create a helmet. So it just makes sense to take the character that I'm going to be creating the helmet for, and let's use this person to create the helmet. So I'm going to duplicate this. All right, and now I'm going to move this down in here, and right out the gate, I'm going to folder this up. I want to create a folder. So I'm just going to say helmet parts. Okay, so then I already have this, and I'm going to rename this instead of Nick Zuccarello. I'm going to say, I'm going to name this main helmet. Okay, we'll just keep it short and simple, main helmet. Now, first thing I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to only look at them. So I'm going to turn on solo mode. So I'm looking at this. Let's check and see. Obviously, one thing I want to look at is if there's any subdivision levels. There's not any subdivision levels. Okay, so you can now use this existing character, right? And if you look, he's got some geometry that's following the head. And what I'm kind of starting to look at is this geometry up here. This is where I care about. And in fact, since he's got polygrouping, we can just grab the polygroups, and then this portion is starting to look like what I need, and then maybe a little bit of this, okay, and having something like this. I want to create a helmet. For me, that's sitting a little bit around where the ear is, okay? I want to go maybe just right around above the ear. You got to think about this because then that's also going to change my proportions because obviously they need to get this thing on the head, right? So I need to have that. And I'm going to show how I did the Celtic part. Don't worry. I'm going to show you guys all of that stuff, okay? So I have this piece, so I might as well even start looking at, well, why don't I just use this and start building off of this, maybe to quickly start going at the creating the helmet. So I'm going to say, let's delete hidden now. I don't need anything else for this. I'm even going to say, let's go through and start making some new polygroups as an example. So I'm going to switch to ZModeler. I'm going to come to this face right here. I'm going to say, let's go polygroup, polyloop. It's always fun to say that. Polygroup, polyloop, polygroup, polyloop. You got to say the P's that way. Polyloop. Okay. So now I'm going to make a new polygroup there. Okay. So in essence, I'm looking now from this point up as my base for the helmet. So I don't need any of this down here now, right? There's no need for any of this. So I can start getting rid of even that portion, and then I'm going to grow out twice. And for those that don't know how to grow or shrink like I'm doing, again, the thing to remember is when you're selecting, okay, when you are going to select, you're using Control and Shift to select, okay? Nice, Rodolfo. I like it. So you hold down Control and Shift, hit the X key as an expand, you'll grow. If you're holding down Control and Shift and you tap on the S as in shrink, you're going to shrink. I use this a lot, so that's why I'm kind of sharing this with you for sure. Right, so I'm just going to now Control W this so it's all one polygroup. I just need it to be one polygroup. Right, so this is all I'm really caring about for the start of starting to map out what I want to do for this helmet. All right, so, and again, I've deleted everything that we've started with. So now what I have is like the dome of this character. It almost looks like a swimmer's cap. He's wearing a swimmer's cap, or like if you're in the film industry, you got to put the bald cap on so you can do all the makeup. Looks funny. So I gotta start now mapping out and say, okay, how big do I want this helmet to be? Proportional wise, what do I want to do with this? You wanted the material brighter? Sure, I can make it brighter. Let me know. Okay, is that better? Let me know if that's better for you. And here, maybe I can find a brighter color for polygroup for you too. Let me know, Dougie, if that's better for you. Okay, so now I want to start let's start putting this together. Now you can clearly we can jump into something, right? Which I can say, I just want to start using the gizmo and start changing stuff like this. Okay, I personally also like using the deformer. I like using this deformer, okay, because I can also turn symmetry on, and then now I'm just dealing with one side of this, and I'm going to say now, all right, we're going to take perspective off so you guys can just look straight ahead on this right now. And again, I'm just going to move these points. And again, this is also another big one that I use all the time. I love this. This is also going to work with masking. I'm going to hold Control, click and drag, but as you can see, my hand is not on the keyboard. So I'm going to hold the Alt key, and now it's a white box. So whatever white points are within that box, those are the ones that are staying to be edit, and then the other ones are gone. And the deformer I'm using is the deformer. Say that one with me again. Deformer, deformer. We should say that with an Arnold voice. Deformer. Get down. Deformer. Deformer. Okay, really bad impression, but go for it. So you can start kind of changing this a little bit, right? And at any time, like, I'd probably want to have a little bit more in the front coming off his head, a little bit more in the back. Let's also make the top part maybe have a little bit more of like a dome look. Let's make, and this is kind of why I like using the deformer. I'm just kind of shaping now a little bit more. And then you can see the shape that I'm starting to get here. And then I can say at any point in time, okay, I like where I'm at. Let's accept that deformer. And then now, you know what? I'm going to make the deformer again. And in this time, I want to add a couple more control points. So I'm going to grab this little orange cone and go this way because I want some more control points like right in here. I want to just kind of just do a little more tweaking to kind of a shape that I want to go for, right? And depending on what kind of helmet you want to do, right? I went more like, I looked at a lot of medieval stuff. That's kind of what I started to go for. Then it became a little bit, you know, my own design, messing around. Okay, so we got, okay, from that angle, we're good. Oh, no. I don't like this angle very much. It was like, right? So I'm going to go ahead and say, let's do this and let's pop this side out a little bit more. And let's even bring this out a little bit more. Just have it come off his head just a bit more. Okay, because don't forget, I'm going to start adding some thickness to this as well. Right? So this is now just a single plane. Okay, so that you're going to have. So I'm going to say, all right, I'm going to accept that. Okay, and the next thing I need to do is, well, this is a helmet. All right, so it needs to be flat along the bottom. Right, so I'm talking about this along here. It needs to be flat. And because I've taken this just from him, all right, I need to fix this a little bit. Again, I could have also just grabbed the sphere and just threw a sphere on this. I'm just showing different ways to go about stuff as well. So I'm going to go in, switch to Z Modeler. I'm going to hover over an edge down here. And I'm going to switch to mask. And I'm going to say complete edge loop. And so I'm just going to click that. So those are all masked out. And I'm going to inverse that by control tapping in my document to inverse that. And now let's switch to our gizmo. I'm going to hold the Alt key and reset this to make sure my gizmo's aligned along the world axis. Right? Because if the gizmo is off-centered a little bit like this, you hold the Alt key and click on the rewind, then you've got this, okay, where it's resetting everything for you. And then I'm going to hit the little bing map. It totally reminds me of the map quests from like the 90s. Like when we were first able to like on the internet go, whoa, my gosh, we can look up stuff online. And like just, that's what it reminds me of. Anyways, so I'm going to click on this. That puts it where the gizmo is going to move based upon the unmasked points now. Okay, so this is now looking at all of these vertex points. So I'm actually going to use the gizmo to kind of fix this. I'm just going to grab this green square now and just start pulling on this. And you can see all the points are following this and they're starting to flatten out, right? So they are flat now. Okay, this is one way you guys could go about doing this. Now, there's another way that I think is, I just want to show this because I think it's, I'm going to turn off live booleans for now because we don't need it. There's another way, and this brush is more, people use it more obviously for more dense pieces of geometry. Okay, so I want to hold down Control Shift, and I want to use the clipping brush. I actually use the clip curve to do low polygon items a lot. And what I mean by that is you guys could also just draw out a curve and let go, and that's also going to move those points. And it's low polygon, right, for me. So the beautiful thing is I'm just moving all those points. So I'm not using the clip in essence to use it like we would where we're flattening the surfaces and making hard surface planes. I'm using it just to flatten that out. So there's two ways for you guys to go about this. So what I don't like about this now is like the topology. I'm going to just Z-remesh this now. So I'm going to throw symmetry on, right? And then I'm just going to get them more equally distributed. And in fact, I'm going to knock it down to like 1,000. And I'm going to remesh this because I just want something a little bit lower. And even that, now I probably, let's go even lower. Let's go at like down to like 200 and remesh that. Let's just get that, yes. Just something really simple, low polygon, right, that we're going to have. Now I need to start establishing my helmet and creating, as we have on the image over here, right? We've got to have some thickness to it, and we're going to start creating all this fun stuff now. Okay. Trantor the Troll, I can't say, unfortunately, at this point in time, anything that's happening with this. I can only comment on what's already been released to the public. There are some regulations in play right now, so I can't make any comments on all that stuff, unfortunately. All right. So I'm going to throw on dynamic subdiv. I love it. I use it, especially when I'm talking low polygon. And now we have, there's the start of my helmet. Starting to make something happen here. Okay. But obviously we need some thickness to this. Okay, so in the dynamic subdiv, this was a big one. We have thickness ability. So I can just start turning this on and start seeing what kind of thickness do I really want to have on this helmet. And this is another reason why I was pulling it away from his head. And obviously this character could have like hair, right? Does he have hair like me, or does he have hair like what he started with? Okay. So now I'm going to say, I pretty much like that. I'm good with that. I like that. But here's what I now do. This is looking at the helmet in a smooth way, okay? In fact, I'm going to even edit looking at this now from above. You know, I didn't take the time to look from above. Let's edit this. I don't like, this is falling a little bit too much to his dome. Let's do a little bit more to this up top. And this is the kind of stuff I think we all should be doing as we're working. Look at those other views just to get enough going on. Okay, I'm happier with that. All right. So now, instead of smoothing this helmet out, I'm going to knock down my smoothing. So the only thing I'm looking at is thickness. And the other thing that I want you to know, because I'm bringing up the hair thing. So when we do this thickness, by default, right? So if we turn this off, you can see that it's moving, it's shifting, right? So what's happening is we're having thickness going two ways on us. So what's controlling that is my offset. So you got to think about it. If you're making a character and let's say it's already got hair, you might want to make the offset, instead of going 50% in and 50% out, maybe you want the whole offset out. Okay, so now where the mesh started, i.e. here, everything's going to extrude outward only. Okay, by default, we're doing a 50-50. And then obviously going in negative is everything is getting pushed inward. Inward. Okay? So now I'm going to stick with the default. I'm fine with the default what I'm doing. I'm getting rid of the smoothness. Okay, this is on purpose. I don't want this smoothness. And I'm now going to apply, because I actually want now the topology. So I've got 2 polygroups here. We're good to go. And now I'm going to turn my dynamic back on, turn my thickness off, and I personally like to have my smoothness at 4. This is just my personal preference. And then in the crease menu, because I'm going to start using creasing here in a second, I will want this crease level here to be set to 2. This is just my personal preference, having this slider at 4 and this slider at 2. So that way, if I do a crease PG, which is for polygroups, see now I get that creasing back. So if I uncrease, let's see, uncrease alt, do I want that or do I want that? And this beveling or chamfering that's happening right here is because crease level's at 2 and this smoothing is at 4. All right. So I'm going to now, let's make a little ridge for this. So, and then now I'm at the point too where, do I really need his whole body for this? I don't. So let's get rid of the body for what we're doing today. I don't need everything. So again, the beauty here is he made polygrouping. So I'm just going to do something like that. And then we'll add that. And then this is all I really need is just the head. I don't need anything else. So let's go ahead and delete that, because it's just going to be a distraction for myself. I don't want the body distracting me as I'm working on this. Okay. So now we've got something like this. All right, let's get back to that helmet. I'm going to switch back to my ZModeler QMesh poly loop, right? And I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out a loop here. I'm going to change the poly group by tapping on the Alt key. Then I'm going to pull another one out here, something like that, because I want to create a little lip. I want a little lip right there. Okay, and that little lip, I also don't want all these creased. I want them to start rounding a little bit, right? So I want some roundness to happening there. So I'm going to say crease, complete edge loop. I'm going to hold the Alt key and then tap. So it becomes, this just becomes a little round, more round. I don't want the crease. I want something more like that happening. And in fact, I've right now got another edge loop right in here. Okay, so we can use that to our benefit if we want to, right? So we can move, we can slide complete edge loop and start changing, in essence, the look. So if we turn this off, see, changing the look of this. But I think also would be nice is let's go ahead and mask that, inverse it, and let's go and play a little bit with this. And then now here's something else that I like to do. I've got a mask on. It's hard to see maybe sometimes because it's so dark. Okay, so if I hit Control H, it hides the mask, but then I'm still only moving those edges that I've masked out, right? So the mask is still there, but I'm not looking at it. Okay. So this is going to allow me to just quickly pull on that edge loop. I want a little bit more of a round lip there for me. And then now also using the polygroups and the poly loop. Okay, we're going to clear my mask. I'm going to pull, and I'm just going to hold the shift key as I pull that out a little bit. And then that's just creating a nice little lip right there. Okay. And then we're getting the base start of a helmet that we're looking to create here. So just something similar is what I got over here, right? That's really what our goal is. So let's now start putting some other elements in here. Let's start having some other fun with this and putting the elements that I put on my helmet in here. And again, this is the time though. Okay, here's not stressful. Here's something I want to stress right now. If you don't like the shape of your helmet, the way it's looking on them, this is the time that you want to start changing it and making sure, looking at every spot, every position that this helmet's sitting on the character, and start figuring out if this is what you want to do. So what I like to do, and we're going to be using this again, is I like to use this move infinite. Hold on, my head is blocking us. There we go. This move infinite right here. Depth. I want that, okay? So I'm going to go with a big brush size, and from this angle, I can say I want to change just a little bit, start touching. So this is infinitely going through the whole model, and maybe, because remember, I got thickness. So be mindful that if you start just smoothing out the top surface, you're changing your thickness. So keep in mind, this is even something that maybe it would be worth doing while you're on a single plane before we even added the thickness, right? Because I'm going to go more that route. I want a little bit profile change, not much. All right, so good to go. I like it. I'm going to go ahead now and I'm going to duplicate this. And I'm going to call this helmet band, right? I'm telling you right now, you guys got to make this a habit of creating a folder. You got to make this a habit of, if you can, renaming as you go along, okay? So that is going to also make a change. And again, there's big changes if you want to make big changes. Then you use your deformer, okay? Just use a little bit of that deformer. So let's start adding some elements in here. So I duplicated the helmet. All right, I'm just going to look at just this. And I'm going to say, okay, I need a row of topology here. So I'm just going to look at only the yellow. Let's delete the rest. I don't really actually need the rest. And I'm going to say ZModeler, let's take this loop right here. Okay, I can polygroup it and then do something like this. Okay, and then now we're only looking at that loop once again. Okay, and then I'm going to say delete hidden. I'm going to turn off my dynamic so that it's not doing this. I don't need dynamic on right now. Right, and then once again, I'm just going to tweak these edges here, right, along the top and the bottom. So I'm going to do this. Let's straighten this out a little bit. I'm going to straighten that out, inverse it, go down to the top and straighten that out and bring that up a little bit more. So we got something that's a little bit more straight along, something like that. So now I've got this piece happening, okay? I'm even going to go a little bit lower with this. I'm going to put this, let's do this. Let's go a little bit lower, okay? Something like this. All right, and then I'm just going to tweak it just a little bit just to have it intersecting just like that. That's enough. I don't need much more than intersecting than that. Okay, and then now, once again, I'm going to turn on dynamic this time. And I'm going to throw that thickness on. And this is, again, where it's important understanding, okay, is I'm going to turn down my smooth. And I'm going to make my offset this time 100. So this is coming off that, okay? And we're going to go to a little bit more thicker point in here. Something a little bit more like this, okay? And then I'm going to say, yeah, I'm happy with that thickness. I'm good. So I'm going to apply that. And then now I'm going to come in here. Let's do an insert. Let's do multiple edge loops. Let's do a little bit more with this band that's going to start going around. So I'm going to insert multiple edges, and I'm going to go, yeah, right about there, I think would be good. I'm now going to Q-mesh, polygroup all, and I'm going to pull that out so we get a little bit of ridge. And again, I'm tapping the Alt key to change that up. So now when I hit the D key to turn on dynamic, if you remember, I've got thickness. Okay, and so I'm going to get rid of the thickness, and now again, once again, turn my smoothing back on. So I get some band that looks like this. And now I got to make a decision. Do I want to add creasing like this to it? Right, and then I've got smoothness 4 and crease level 2. Maybe I won't even go to crease level 1 to soften that out even more. So now I got this band going around the helmet. Right, and I'm gonna keep adding to this here. Okay. Yeah, I know it's starting to look a little. It was looking a little bit like a World War II helmet, but as we keep adding all these other elements, we're gonna lose that look a little bit too. Okay, so I'm going to now switch to an insert mesh brush. I'm a big fan of this model kit brush here. Okay, and then now I've got a whole bunch of things up here that I can use. I like this one, this little circular one, and I want to start using that, okay, along now this. I want a repeating element along there, okay? So looking at this, we've got some polygrouping happening in here. So I'm going to switch back to ZModeler first, and I'm going to say, let's go ahead and let's delete this single edge. Like, let's just get rid of that. And now the other thing you might want to do, depending on how often do I actually want to repeat maybe this. Maybe I want this element that I'm about to put on this. I want little screws going around. I wouldn't say screws. There's little rivets going around this thing. And I want it to go every other. Okay, so I'm going to now hovering over this face. I'm going to switch to polygroup. And I'm going to say polyloop. I'm going to come down here and say checker. And so when I click, and I'm just going to tap the Alt key a couple times so you guys can visually see what's happening. So what ZBrush is doing for me is alternating the polygroups for me as we go along this. Okay. And then now going back to this insert mesh brush, what I'm going to do now is say, you know, instead of an insert, I'm going to tell ZBrush to turn this into a nano. Okay, so you're not going to see it with my banner. So I'm going to come up here. All right, and in the create, I'm just looking to make sure the helmet's in the way right now. So in here, there's create nano mesh brush right there. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And what that's done now is turn this insert mesh brush into a nano. Okay, everything's fine. I'm all good. I'm all good. Thank you, though. I appreciate the concern, though. So now I'm going to say, all right, let's go and select that piece I want. So we can come through here, or you guys can hit the M key for multiple, and you can see all the pieces in one big menu. And I'm going with this circular 11. I'm going to grab that. And then this is got insert nano mesh turned on. And then I'm just going to say polygroup all. And now I'm just going to say I want right here those little rivets being repeated along that. Right? So now we've got those rivets being repeated all along there. So this is where it's going to we're going to slowly start breaking away, looking like that military helmet. Okay. So now I want to add I want to add a little bit more design to this too. Right. So let's now go to the top. All right. And I'm looking at this, and I've got some edges right along here. Right. So this is again why I like doing this. Right. Because then I can unmask everything really quickly this way. And because I'm low polygon, if I switch now to the move Z, this one, right, the move infinite depth, I can say, let's start just pulling on and make this kind of like some kind of fin. that goes kind of to the top, up a little bit, and starts coming down the back. I'm not going to go extreme. We can go extreme, but no need, because, you know, we're going to put something else up here, right? And again, this is where I like to turn off my masking, right? And that way I can really, I can really see what's going on, right? And then turn off even this so I can start seeing what is that starting to look like, okay? So that's starting to create that, have a little bit of element in there. Let's not forget, you guys could also take that mask and blend it. This is a reason why I also Z-remeshed it. There's a reason why I did that. I want to have the topology that I knew was relatively pretty low, because I knew down the pipeline I was going to be pulling this little part off on the helmet on the head. Okay. Very good. All right. Looks like. Okay. I'm just catching up. Okay. Good. I'm going to take a swig of water. So now let's continue moving along this path of making stuff here. So let's do this little fin element now on the top, right? This part right here, this part right in here. Okay, let's do that next. So that way I can really start to see my silhouette, because this is going to become important watching this up here for me. This is where I'll start looking at this. My eye will carry up to that a lot and see what's going on. Okay, now let's continue and say, all right, for me to do this, this is something I think is pretty cool. Okay, I'm just going to now, let's insert a cube. All right, so we got the cube. Let's rename it again. I'm gonna rename this top fin. Okay, and I gotta learn to stop saying okay and right so much. Have you guys noticed how often I say that? I gotta learn to take that out when I'm talking to you all. All right, so I don't want this cube. I want the cube that's in here is what I'm looking for. I want this cube. What I want is actually a little bit fewer topology, and I want to make sure my topology looks like this all around the cube, not looking like this where there's a pull. So I'm going to replace the top fin cube I started with this cube. And now I'm just going to position this somewhere right about, let's go right here. Right, and I'm going to say, let's go a little bit bigger here. And now from the front, let's squeeze this in and say this can only be about, let's go about that thick. That's about as thick as I want it to be. Okay. And then, let's see, and then I'm going to divide this. But before I divide, I'm going to, once again, I am thinking about the next steps down the road. The best analogy, again, that I can use this is playing chess. That's how I like to work, especially for hard surface. I'm always looking at, I'm thinking about what I'm going to do as I go along here, right? And when I'm looking at references, I'm even picking features out in my head that I'm going to use here, right? So I know I'm going to want to put some nice little design on, right? So this, in essence, this part around here, that's a little element I added. I know what I did to do that, so I'm going to prep myself for that. And I'm going to use this in here, and let's again switch to Z Modeler. And I'm going to go ahead and say, let's polygroup polyloop, and let's do one group ID again. And I'm just going to do a new polygroup right here. So I have all this going around. So that when I divide this, this is what's going to start happening. Okay, and I don't need a lot. I'd say 24,000 is probably more than enough for me. So the other thing that you might want to start doing when you divide is maybe use a little bit of creasing here. Might be a good idea as well. So because I made a new polygroup, I can just crease PG. And again, I'm going to knock this down to 2. Right? And if you want to, this is why we have dynamic subdivs. Preview this, start to see what this is going to look like. What if I did divide it the number of times that I'm saying I want a division? What's this going to start looking like? I'm also going to look through here, okay? And let's go back to Z Modeler. I'm going to throw also right in here, I'm going to throw a crease on this one. You're going to see in a minute here why I'm going to do this, okay? I'm going to turn on dynamic again, so we've got this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply it. So see, I've got my 5 subdivision levels. So then this is what I have. right? And now I want to start creating a design, something similar like to what I was doing on my helmet that we have here in the image, like this part, right? This top portion, fin portion over here. Okay. So here, I'm actually going to, for the sake, let me even move the helmet so that it's not up so high. I'll move more towards the logo. Where's my mouse? I gotta get it. So hold on, I'm gonna move it down a little bit more for us. Something more in there. Just so it's not blocking my thumbnail. Since I like to use that, and every time I look at it, I'm looking at you guys, and like, for me, it's not bothering me, but for you guys, it might. All right, so I'm now gonna go, I need to start creating this fin. This is the easiest way to do it. Let's grab this Move Infinite Depth once again. Right? I'm gonna go with a big draw size first, and I'm just gonna start manipulating this and saying, okay, I'm just gonna let kind of happy mistakes start to happen for me. Right? And just start coming up with some kind of design element. Okay, I kind of like now with that. I like what's happening here. And then I can smooth stuff out if I want to. Okay, and this is why I took the time to make polygroups and creasing. Then I can go slower. Okay, and then maybe start making this a little bit more flat. And now, if I want to now start, okay, I like where this is going now. I want to add a little bit more sharpness to it per se, maybe. So in the brush palette, okay, once again, I'm going to go into curve. I'm going to turn on AccuCurve. And then this is going to allow me to kind of just do a little bit more of a sharpness to what I want. I'm going to bring this a little bit more forward, like here. We'll do a little bit more like that, right? So I want maybe some kind of design. So the AccuCurve is an accurate, hence AccuCurve, of the brush. It's just making a more accurate brush stroke. And then because I'm doing the move, we're doing this. Like, okay, so I'm pretty happy with this. I'm going to smooth that out a little bit more. I'm good. I like this one where it's going. Good, right? The beauty of this is why I'm using the Move Infinite Depth is that no matter what, I know I'm good to go. No matter now where I'm looking at this. What I mean by that is I didn't just start moving one side and the other side was just staying stationary, right? I don't want this hand moving and changing the shape. Let's go like I don't want profile change on one side and then the other side's doing nothing. Like I don't want this to start happening. If you look at my webcam with my hands. So that's why I'm using this Move Infinite Depth. Really simple, grab a cube, go. All right. Now don't worry. I know some people might be thinking, well, when you do something like that, you're just grabbing a cube, and if we turn off the head, right, that's inside the helmet. Don't worry about it, okay? Don't you worry about it. We're going to solve that down the pipeline. Don't worry. All right, so I like this. We're good to go. I'm a fan of it. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this again, put that in the folder. I'm going to rename this Top Fin Design Element, okay? And I'm going to say now, let's just look at this. This is what we have, all right? And I'm going to say, all right, this polygrouping and this creasing that I've used, let's take advantage of it. I'm going to now delete the subdivision levels so that I don't have any subdivision levels in here, okay? I'm going to, looking at this is why I made this crease in the middle here. I'm going to look at just this polygroup. This is the only polygroup I even care about right now. So I'm going to delete the rest because I actually don't need it. Let me make sure nothing's covering. I'm going to delete this. And I'm even going to shrink this up, right? Because I don't need everything, okay? So I'm going to say, let's even shrink this up. So actually, before I even do that, we can even shrink. And all I really need is this. So I'm going to shrink it actually before I even delete. Let's just go with this. I just need that profile and delete hidden. So now I've got the profile. So I'm going to turn on my display double property. So see, I just got that profile of what I just made. Okay. And what I'm going to do is switch now to one of my favorite brushes that I use a lot. I'm going to use this Extrude profile brush. So I'm going to click on that and have that brush to do another little element here. Okay, sorry, hold on. There's in my OBS the selection's bothering me. So I'm going to say now, all right, we've got this. I'm going to say this brush. I'm going to select the first one. I kind of like the first one. And what this is doing is something like this. Right, so you can see how big that is. That's pretty large. So I'm going to go with a smaller brush size. I'm going to say maybe around 2. Yeah, I think 2 looks good. I'm going to go with 2. And then now I'm going to go up to the stroke. And some of you probably know where this is going. And I'm going to frame my mesh. But I'm going to frame it only by the creased edge. This is why I creased that middle edge loop before I divided and applied. I knew I wanted to add this element down the middle of this profile that I was going to make. I had no idea what the profile was until I made it. So now that I have this profile, it's a simple frame mesh. And then now there's one curve going straight down the middle. So let's turn everything on. And now you can see what that is. So now if I just touch, I get that profile going all the way around. Okay, and now the one thing you want to be making sure when you're going to do this, do not, Lisa needs braces moment. Lisa needs braces moment. I know you've missed them. Do not have symmetry on. If you have symmetry on, you're going to make 2 overlapping each other there. There's no need to have symmetry on at all for this. And how do I know if symmetry is on? Like, what if you're like this and you have no idea? This symmetry is off. I know that because symmetry is on now. So I'll turn on the magnifier. Okay, so symmetry is on, symmetry is off. Symmetry on, symmetry off. I know that because, again, if you're paying attention to the bigger circle, see when symmetry is on, you get 2 circles. Right? And then now 1 circle on the outside. That means symmetry off. So now, and even if to what, Dougie, you're bringing up, right? Even I didn't know I wanted to do that in the design, I'm going to still be able to add that creasing edge even after I made the profile. Okay, so that is also possible. So again, let's go ahead and apply this. Boom. And now I'm going to delete the curve by just tapping anywhere. And the only thing I care about, in fact, I think I had, did I turn? No, I had creasing off, okay? And then I'm going to take only this. This is the only thing I care about. And then what I'm doing, here, if we go solo mode, I'm hiding that little portion. I don't need it anymore. So I'm going to delete it. I'm going to do a delete hidden and now turn on my dynamic, subdiv, and then boom, we've got that top portion starting. So now I've got this is where I'm going. So let's continue moving on now. Let's go ahead and start sculpting the details in here. But honestly, before doing that, I might want to do the little cross element in the front, right? Because I might end up wanting to change this profile a little bit, right? Which would be still possible to do, right? Let's not forget, if you, even though that these are 2 separate subtools. Hold on one second, I gotta turn my fan on. It's starting to get hot in my little office here. Turn my fan on. Now, even though these are 2 separate subtools, let's not forget that we can still edit both those subtools as kind of like a unit. So if I turn on my gizmo and we turn on the multi-subtool selection, this is going to allow me, right, to select out everything but those. And then now I can edit these. Now, what's nice and what's new to ZBrush, I now can use this to even edit, right? I can put this here and then turn my focal shift probably up pretty high. And then I can change the profile of this even after the fact. This is nice to be able to do now stuff like this. So maybe I want to have a little bit more of an arc there now. Or maybe I want to come back over here and start straightening it out. Maybe you want it to be a little more straight there. It's your world. There. Happy little trees. Maybe I want to come a little bit more like this. And then this is where I start looking around and then looking at this and I say, okay, I like that. So, and then I can say, let's go and I'm going to tweak this part right here just a little bit more. And in fact, I'm going to go higher with my focal shift. So it's even looking at just a certain portion of this. Right? And then now I'm just using this new ability for us to start manipulating this. And by having the focal higher, right, it's now keeping it more local. What I mean by that, the only part of the mesh that's really getting movement is this front part, okay? If I go negative, then you're gonna see more of it, more of it's moving. Don't worry, I'm gonna do something else that's using this. But I wanted to show you guys this, in the sense using this in a different way with now the multi-selection for something like this is really nice to be able to just change my profiles of both those subtools. Okay, good, done. Let's go and now let's do this little element in the front of his head. This little thing that's going to be his nose guard. All right, so I'm going to, let's go ahead and I'll do it from here. I'm gonna go up to the top of the helmet because this is where I want to start adding this nose guard. And I'm going to insert something. It really is not relevant. In fact, I'm going to go crazy and insert a cylinder. It's not really relevant at all. And I'm going to call this cross nose. Okay, and we've got a beautiful cylinder. Yay! I don't want this. This is ridiculous. You mask the mesh beforehand. Hold on, I'm just looking at your question. You're asking, that used to work before, right, Paul? If you mask the meshes beforehand. What are you referring to? Are you referring to, yeah, just moving? Yeah, that would have worked before. It's working before, but what I've done now, what you weren't able to do, if you're using version 2021 and previously, you would have just moved the two subtools as a unit, right? And so then you would have to go into each subtool and mask out, which that's a lot more work. All right. And then this is eliminating all of that. It's in essence, the gizmo has become its own local deformer now. So that's the nice thing about this. All right. So as an example, this is what, let's go back. Let's hide this since you're asking. This is a great question. I want to make sure you guys have the full understanding of this. So I'm going to come back into this and do this. So if I put this back to the defaults, this is what you were going to be able to do in 2021 and any time before it, is this, right? You're just moving everything. That's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to change that profile in the front a little bit. Okay, so to do that, I would have had to gone to this subtool, masked off, this subtool, and masked off. So in this case, it's just 2 subtools. But what if it was like 10 subtools or 15 subtools? Then you're going to go to all 15 of those and mask off. The new ZBrush 2022, I don't need to even do the masking. I can control, in essence, the masking roll-off in the gizmo by just changing my focal shift. Again, the higher I go, number-wise in focal shift, the more it's locally just looking at that gizmo. The lower numbers in the negatives I go, then it's going to look at more of the mesh. In essence, it's almost like the masking is, there's a built-in masking ability, if you want to look at it that way, into the gizmo now. It's saying, well, the gizmo's sitting there in the surface. It's sitting right here. This is saying, well, how far roll off down the geometry do you want affected? Which in essence is a mask. So instead of me having to go to all my subtools, I just quickly just change my focal shift. That's the difference. So that makes sense for everybody. Yep. All right. Bam. Okay, good. Good. Feeling good. Feeling good. I should have worn my Christmas hat is what I should have worn. All right, back to the cylinder. Yes, I've made a cylinder. That's no good. I'm going to now switch to my gizmo once again. I'm going to say, let's grab a plane. There, we've got a plane. I'm going to knock this play down to nothing. So it's just one polygon face. Again, I'm just grabbing this green arrow all the way and then this red arrow all the way. So all the way to the left for me and all the way up. Okay, and you got to say the P's that way today. Up. Don't do it because what's going to happen, you guys are going to be repeating this in your home and someone's going to go in your family. Why do you keep saying with your P's? Because it's happened to me. When I'm with you guys, for whatever reason, I'll say that with my P's. And the wife goes, why are you saying your P's like that. I'm like, oh man, I've been streaming for hours. It became part of my vocabulary today. So be careful. That's just a little note for you all. All right, so I'm going to size this down. You guys didn't need to know that, but you know what? Welcome to my tangents. Now, the thing to understand here, when I'm sizing this down, you got to remember now, the gizmo, I've been messing with it before, right before showing you this. So I don't want this to have anything but negative 100. So now, in the ZBrush of today, the 2022.0.2, you got to have your focal shift at negative 100 to make it work the way it was in previous ZBrushes. Because I don't want deformation. I just want to size this down, move this up. I'm going to move this forward in front of him. I'm going to go right about here. Let's move it up to here. And let's just size this down. I'm going to make it about, a little bit about that. How about that? About almost the size of that band that's going around. Where it's sitting in space, I'm going to move this to where it about starts to intersect with some of this. I just want a little bit of an intersection happening there. Doesn't need to be a lot. That's enough. All right. And now what I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to come down to my little friend here that I use all the time. Okay, Alex, are you asking if this video is going to be posted anywhere? Because where you're at right now, the video will stay. So you can come watch this as many times as you want to. But don't leave. Stay with us, Alex. That's a good question, Dougie. When I used to not have a detached office, after my streams, my wife would be, I counted. You say look up here a lot. I'm like, it's in my vocabulary now from what I'm teaching. All right, so I'm going to turn on dynamic. Then it becomes an itty bitty little face. So I'm going to get rid of the smoothness, and I'm actually going to add some thickness. So I'm going to do something like this. Okay, I want to add a little bit of thickness to this. And it really, it doesn't matter how much thickness you want. I want to have at least a little bit here. And I'm going to switch back now to my Z modeler, brush Z modeler. And what I'm going to do is now turn my Z modeler brush into like a topology Z modeler brush, which it's already in ZBrush, but I want to show it to you guys. So I'm going to show you what you need to do, and then I'll show you where it's already in ZBrush. We already give it to you guys. So on the face, I'm going to hover over this, and I'm going to say do nothing. Because I don't want accidentally to delete a face, or I don't want to extrude a face, or Q-mesh a face. I don't want anything. I want nothing happening while I'm hovering over. So in essence, if I click right now, it's not going to do anything on a face action, which is what I want. While I'm hovering over an edge, I'm going to switch to extrude, and just making sure nothing's covered. I'm going to turn on now snap to surface. Hello, thinking monkey. Welcome. So now that I have that, I'm now going to go to the vertex point, which is here. I'll zoom in more. It's right here. So you can see that it's orange. And again, there's thickness happening, right? That thickness doesn't exist. So I'm going to now say space bar. This by default's got move on, brush radius, but now this also has a snap to surface. And now I'm just going to create some little design here to start pushing this along even more. So this is also why I've added a thickness. So now when I pull on an edge, I get something like this, and you can see it's trying to connect to the helmet. So this is pushed. So if we turn off dynamic, see the face, that edge is connected to the helmet. And this is what I want. I want that ability. And yep, no, you're live, Silent Moon. That's a nice name. I like that. I like that name. You guys have such good names. I like Thinking Monkey too. You guys have some good names. I like it. All right, so now I'm just going to start, okay, what do I want this to look like? So I'm going to say, I'm going to go about maybe there, right about there. Okay, I'm going to start tapering just a little bit now. I'm going to start tapering it in. Something maybe like this. Or actually, you know what? Let's taper out first and then taper in like that. Okay, and then now from above, and then let's really taper this in a little bit. And this is kind of why the defaults are what they are when we're doing this. So there, that part's good. I'm happy with that. That's looking, let me look from all angles. It's pretty good. I like what's happening there. And then now from this side, let's start adding it this way. Okay, and again, this is connecting, right? Trying to find the meshes connecting to, right? Because I've got snap to surface on here. Okay, so if you wanted to, I could, just to make things easier, I mean, just get rid of that band, because I don't need the band. I just now need to go, I need to come across here. And then this, I'm going to come in here and say, let's go right about there. And then now I'm going to start tapering this way for these points. Just start adding a little bit of tape. Actually, yeah, let's go. Actually, let's stick with what the top looks like. Let's add a out taper first. Come in here, and then now let's taper inward. Something like this. Just creating that nice little element, something different for me here. Get that point. Okay, and now we can throw this band back on. All right, and then the beauty of this, everybody, let's not forget, we are actually a small, thin plane. There is no thickness that exists right now. So this is why I number one, I use the thickness, is I can see what's happening with the topology as I'm making the new topology. And number two, because it's a simple plane, this is going to allow me to even make adjustments. I can just even straight up grab the move brush, and I can just start pulling this off the surface and start changing a little bit of the design with the move brush. Okay, and then maybe I want these points to just come off a little bit more. Something like this. I could put a little bit more volume in there, if you will, a little more space in there. Okay, and then now I have, there we go. I've got a start of something, and I'm going to actually move these points a little down a little bit more. I want to make that be a little bit more extreme, I think. Okay, I'm happy with that. So we've got this. I've got some thickness. Do I really want it to be this thick? I think it's a little too thick for me. And so now I'm going to make my offset go outward. And I'm going to just change the thickness of this a little bit. I'm going to go a little bit thinner. Something like that. Okay. And that is where I want to be for this piece now. So I'm going to say I'm happy with this. I'm going to hit apply. So now I have the actual topology. So when I turn dynamic on and we turn the smooth off, the thickness off, we throw on our smooth, this is now what we're starting to make. It's something like this. And so now I'm going to just do some other little touch-ups here that I want to add to this. So let's go ahead and start playing with some creasing. So I got my smooth at 4, make that 2. We'll crease by the old PG'er first. So I want all that creased. Okay, that looks good. And let's go to our Z modeler. And I'm going to head and go and crease. Let's complete edge loop. And I want that to stay creased. I want that to stay creased. And I want that to stay creased. I want that to stay creased. Which means, here's solo mode, I also want those edges to be creased. So I want all this around here to be creased. I want that creased. And then you got to figure out, you know what? I like having this be a little bit more of like a point like that. Instead of super rounded, I'm going to go that route for this. Okay, so now I have something like this happening. And then now I'm going to like, all right, let's add a little bit more. We need the nose guard to this. So I'm going to look at the face that I already have down here for my nose guard. Right here, this face right here. So there's a couple things we could do with this. If we, right, there's a couple ways we can go about doing this. And once you, okay, hold on, I'm just catching up what you guys are saying. Does it snap just based on the subtool above? Yeah, it's looking at the subtool that's above it to snapping to. Once you hit the apply button, yes, okay, good. Same thing. Creasings are not actual edges. And once you hit the apply button, they become support edges. Yeah, I'm a big crease person instead of just only doing support edges. There's multiple ways to go about this. All right, so let's go Q mesh in a single polygon. And now I'm just going to pull this out, change that polygroup. And now I got to go, how far do I want this nose guard to go? So I'm going to hover over face. I'm going to go to transpose this time. I'm going to do that. And so I can just pull the nose guard to where I want. I want something like that. Let's say around in that world. And then now I want some creasing here, right? So I want some creasing there. I want some crease there. And I want it out here so that when I do this, I get something that looks more like that happening. All right, let's have a little bit more fun with this nose guard. So I'm going to insert an edge loop here. And then let's insert an edge loop there. And let's go ahead and unmask these points. I have symmetry on. So I'm going to now just taper that in there. So put that a taper. Let's even make it longer. And then up here, these ones, let's start pulling that out. And then let's add a crease there so we get something a little bit bigger to guard that nose. That's the whole point of this, right? Is to have a little bit of a nose guard in there. And then so this is nice and flat, which it does have that capability to do this. But now I can just say, I want to change a little bit of this in here. So I'm going to make my focal shift really high. I'm going to go like, let's go 97. And I'm just going to start rotating a little bit. Maybe that's a little too high, maybe. And I can start even tweaking with rotation. Something like this. Now we'll go back to negative. And again, if I don't want it pulling off the helmet, see how it's pulling off the helmet? Okay. I don't have to do it this way. There's also, let's not forget, by using this as well, you guys can come in here and then once again use a deformer. Right? So you have the ability to do that as well. Right? So this is how you can start doing some tweaks, or just grab, once again, the move infinite depth. And then now I can just do a couple little tweaks, put a little more roundness in that. Right? And then let's go back to, we wanted this creased again. So I went back too far. I want that creased. And then we're going to unmask those points. So we need symmetry back on. I did a little too many undos as I was talking. And then we're going to go a little bit something like that. Yes. And let's, I'm going to bring it down a little bit more. I'm going to do something more like that. I like that better. All right. So let's continue adding a little bit more to this. So there's a little more fun to it. There's, it's a little bit more elements of interest happening here. So I'm going to come down here to insert multiple edge loops. I'm going to go specific, and I'm going to say just one. And then I'm going to go with keep groups. So that's going to say that the polygroups aren't changing, right? That's what that's telling it. Just seeing what time it is. Doing a time check. So I'm now going to click, put an edge loop there, put an edge loop there. Okay. And I want to now pick and choose some masking edges. So I'm going to go edge and I'm going to go mask. I'm going to say single edge. I want this one, this one, this one, this one, that one, that one. And we'll go there. And then here, we'll go here, here, and here. And I'm going to inverse it. Again, I'm going to hide the mask. Okay, this is why I was giving you guys the hide the mask thing. Control H. Because then I'm going to switch the gizmo. All right. And then I'm just going to tell ZBrush to just kind of start pulling on that surface. So we get a little bit here of a bevel, kind of like that. I want a little bit of a raised surface through there to start happening. I want something like that to start happening through here. Right? So it's just a subtle little change and a little difference of things that I can do. Right? And then now, let's continue having a little bit more fun with this. So I'm going to now select these faces right in here. We'll make that one polygroup in here. We'll solo this out. And then let's do the same thing for the back. Back here, right? Let's go through here. No, we don't want that one. We want, let me switch to QMesh. So I want these back here. In essence, I want these faces right here, right? These ones right in here to start being their own. So I'm going to, let's see, make these all one polygroup, right? So it's like this. I want those and those to be one polygroup so that they're sharing the same relationship. And I think I'm going to, I don't like what's happening in the middle here, so I'm going to uncrease maybe those and see. And we'll keep them creased. And now I'm going to say, I'm going to turn off dynamic. I'm going to switch to inset. I'm going to say polygroup all. And I'm going to inset a region. And I'm going to do a little inset of a region in here. Something like this. And I'm changing polygroups. Now, you see that there's these triangles coming here. Because this insetted region is, what it is equidistant. And in order to keep this ability to keep this edge and the new edge and then this edge and the new edge equidistant, a triangle has to be made right here. Now, you can, if you want to, down here in the options, you can come down here to custom equidistant, and then you can try turning this up, and in some cases, this will get rid of a lot of the triangles. So now I'm gonna go boom, and see, look, the triangles are gone. That's what I'm looking for. I want something like that, let's say. I'm gonna go about that big. Okay, that looks good. And then again, it's got the same polygroups on both sides, right? So then I'm gonna do this now again, this way. I'm gonna change that polygroup on the fly, something like that. And then now I've got those two polygroups on either side, which I actually didn't need to do that, but why not? And then I'm gonna switch back to QMesh, polygroup all, and let's push this in. Let's just start adding a little something different. And so now what we have is something like this happening, okay, in this portion. And then now I want to go back and say, okay, I wouldn't want these creased for sure. Okay, I want that to come back being creased. Let's go ahead and let's recrease those elements through there. And I want these corners now. I want these corners here creased. I want those creased. We might as well just crease by the polygrouping too, because I want all that creased. And then now we're getting a little something more like this. Just having a little bit of a ridge through there, just to kind of break it up, especially when we now turn on the character. It just adds another nice little element to it. And then I'm going to say, all right, let's do that same kind of thing now to the red ones, like this front piece, these pieces right here. Okay, I want to start working with those now. So let's show them again. We'll go back down. Let's go inset, polygroup all, and let's just make some insets. Something, I don't know. Something, yeah, let's go around there. That looks good. And then I'm going to shrink it, create a new, right? Create a new polygroup. Oh, I had it masked though, that's why I wasn't able. So now that I have this, we're going to make sure we need to follow along the rule. I'm going to crease this along the polygroups. These need to be creased still. And let's see if I want my corner. Yeah, I'm going to corner crease those. I want something like that. Let's go ahead and crease through there again. Let's crease through there. I would want these corners creased. Let's see what we got up here. I want that creased. Okay, I want those creased. So just creating a little bit more of it, a little bit something else. Right, but I'm going to do something now with these new polygroups. I'm going to switch to my curve tube. Where are you at? Curve tube. And then I'm going to look at just these polygroups. However, this is very crucial what I'm about to do here. I don't want to do this technique on this mesh, because this is really, really low. It's extremely low polygon. So I'm going to duplicate this. And then I'm going to apply the subdivisions and then delete them. So then I have the density here. And I'm going to look at just these two polygroups. This is all I care about, those two polygroups. And I'm going to delete the rest. So, delete hidden. And this is all I care about. So now I've got this subtool and then the original. And now with curved tube, I'm going to go with a small brush size. Let's just start at 2. And then I'm going to go stroke. And this time I'm going to frame by polygroups, frame mesh. And now I've got these, right? I don't need symmetry. And when I click, I got something like that happening. Now, that's a little too big for me. And even if I go down to draw size of 1, it might be a little too much for you. So what I'm going to do for this brush temporarily, okay, is I'm going to turn off the dynamic. So you do that by double clicking. And what that's going to give me is a wider range now of brush size. So I can go, like now even brush size 9, you can see is actually even smaller. And then now I can go, let's go brush size, let's try 4. And then tap. Like there, that's what I'm just looking for, a nice little ridge accent in there. That's all I'm going for. So because the size of this model right now is, it's at a particular size, that the draw size couldn't get small enough, I turned off dynamic so I could get a bigger range even and go smaller. So I usually keep dynamic on because it's just so useful for a lot of things. But there you go. And then now I have this. So I'm happy with this. I'm going to split masked points or unmasked points. And I don't need now this one. So I'm going to delete it. And then we got this ridge left. So there's my ridge. There's my original. And you can see we're just adding now a little bit more flavor to it. Okay. And now we're going to come back to this. Let's go to, again, my insert mesh brushes. We've been using this one right here. Okay. So I'm going to put one of those, I want to put one of those right here. This is also why now I want dynamic back on, because I want the same. So when I do this, right, I want that same size piece also too. Okay, no matter where I draw, I want that one there. Let's put that there. Let's come up here to the top and put that there. And I'm using the control key to actually put those sides on. And then that is how I did that front piece on mine. All right, so let's keep going here. Let's keep moving along and moving along here as we go. So now I'm happy where this one's going. So let's do this part now over here. So these little parts in here, these little scribes that I put in here. What's going on? No plastic, doing great. Thanks for asking. Okay. Dougie, you want the jaw piece? You're gonna stick around, right, and see the whole thing? I was gonna go up here because I want to do some sculpting stuff. So I'm gonna switch to the Scribe chisel, and I'm gonna turn it into Z add, and then I'm going to limit the intensity of this. I think the intensity for what I'm about to do, I want to go a little bit less intensity. So I'm gonna go around 60 intensity. Okay, and what this is doing is we draw a curve and we get something like that. So what I need now is more topology. So I'm going to divide up, divide up, divide up. 1.5 is probably good enough. Okay, so 1.5, I'm getting, that's a good enough result. So I'm going to now say, hey, I want it on both sides. So let's turn off my Acu curve. I don't need that anymore. And then in auto masking, I'm going to turn on back face masking. Oh, you can't see it with the helmet. Okay, so back face masking right here in your auto masking, right? Your auto masking and then back face masking. And then I'm going to make sure I have symmetry on. Okay, so I know that if double circle and I can see the dots. And then I want to make sure, obviously, I want to be symmetry X, which by default it will. Now, all I'm doing is just quickly drawing out some elements like this. You can see what's happening with the curve, though. See, the curve is seeing the helmet, though, piece. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on transparency, non-ghost, so that I can still see the helmet. So I want to have, okay, I want to have something that maybe just got a nice little curve following what I've already put there. Beautiful. And it's on the other side, right? So I know the other side's happening. Tap, right? So I just tap to get rid of the curve and say, okay, I want to now do a curve that maybe comes up like this. Okay, tap. Let's do another curve, maybe. And then I'm just experimenting, doing something like that. great. So I'm going to make some big ones first. Right? Maybe I want to make another, let's try another big one, what that looks like there. Okay, and if you can turn transparency off, you can start seeing what that looks like. Okay, I like where that's heading. Let's turn my transparency back on. Now I'm just going to go with a smaller brush size. And I'm going to say, okay, I want one to come in like this. Let's make one come out now like that. Let's add another on like this and there. And I'm just, again, tapping, tappa, and just adding some more elements to this just to create a little bit cooler design as we go along. No, I don't like that. Let's go this way instead. Yes. Yes. All right, and then every once in a while I'll turn off that, start pulling back, seeing what I'm starting to make there. Okay, now I'm going to start filling in some empty holes here. So I need something here. And then I definitely need something here. And I'm going to do another one there. Let's do something there as well. Okay, turn that off, start seeing. And now I'm going to go again, smaller brush size. And now I'm just going to do some little ones. Just almost like they're little buds coming off of this. Right, so this brush is great to do this kind of filigree, you know, ornate piece. And this is all I did for this. I just started doing little bit at a time, just quickly adding some more pieces to this to just add a design element at the top on this little head fin thing. I wonder what this would be technically called. I didn't bother researching that. It's probably got to have some kind of name because I saw it often in medieval and obviously Roman stuff. Romans too. I saw it a lot in some Roman helmets that I was looking at. It's really cool. Let's go make that one a little bit longer there. Okay, you guys get now what I did. Like it's not anything too complicated. But when we're done, it really starts to come together. So there's a nice way to be able to do that. Okay. Now the scribe line affecting another scribe, it's a sculpting brush. So if it's seeing that other scribe, it's going to affect it. It's seeing it and going to apply to it. So the best thing would be to do is if you wanted to store a morph target and then apply a new one, then you can morph back, right? So what I mean by that is if we make one like here, let's just look at only this, right? So we'll make it down here. So by doing this, see, it's affecting the other one. So if I start looking at this in a different way, there's going to be multiple ways to do this actually. So we're going to go on a quick one. We're going on a quick one. Tangent. So you could store morph target, number one, and then do something like this. Okay, and then I tap, but now this has got changed. So if you switch now to the morph brush, you can start moving this, right, and do something like that. Okay, and then now it's not affecting the other one. Okay, this is definitely a way to look at it. Now, what I also could do, let's delete the morph, and let's think about this. I made the main ones way back here. Okay, I'm going to hold control and boom, make a control point up here. So I'm holding control and then clicking. You see it creates a gray rectangle. I'm going to move this all the way back now to where I've got to my finished one, which it's there. It's hard, the reflection. Okay, yeah, I'm at the end. Okay, and then now I'm going to switch to the history brush. Okay, and then now I can start, you know, looking at this. Okay, and say I'm going to turn symmetry off, and I can just start blending any of these in that I want. Right, if I want to get rid of, and it's at any undo history point, right? So you can do this, and then any other ones that you want to update, you go about it. There you go. There's an easy way to make it so it does not affect anymore the original strokes if you want to. There's always something we can mess around with, right? Yes, there. I like it kind of, but you know, if this is what you want to do, I'm giving you the workflows. There you go. Okay? So two ways to do that. Okay, good tangent. Good tangent to ask. All right then. So let's continue on. In fact, now since we're using the Scribe brush, let's throw the little accents on the helmet. I'm gonna now hold Control, because you see there's a red. There's a red here. That's telling me that there's an undo stored somewhere else. So I'm going to hold Control down here, click, and click again, so that erases all undos. So they're all gone. And let's go ahead and, like the helmet itself, let's go ahead and apply now these subdivisions so we have them. Let's go up one more. Okay, so we can divide this up a little bit maybe. Oh, it's partially hidden. Let me show the whole thing. Would be useful. And now I want to use this Scribe. So I just did something really quick. I'm going to go symmetrical, and then just, I want to start playing with this. So let's go a little bit more. Let's make sure there's no mask. So adding a little bit element to this just creates, you know, I think 70 is too much. I'm going to go lower. I'm going to go 50. I'm going to go 50. And let's just quickly add a little, yeah, I like that one. Yeah, 50 is better. And then just add a nice little, kind of like a radial starburst thing happening from the front. Yeah. Yeah, I like that. That's good. There you go. So I just used the Scribe brush to add that element, so you guys can see it on mine over here as well. Adding a little bit something like this. All right, let's do the chin now. Let's go ahead and do that chin right here. Now, this is where something would have been, I have this. So let's duplicate this. We're going to duplicate that. And I'm going to walk down my subdivision levels. So we're back down to really low topology. And I'm going to delete the higher. And the only I care about are these two right here. I only care about this topology. That's it. So I'm going to delete the rest. Delete it. And let's go ahead and switch to ZModeler. And I'm going to actually delete now that edge loop. So it's flat there. And we don't need these faces. So let's delete polyloop. Let's delete these faces. So what I'm left with is this. Okay, which this is just now sitting on the bottom. So looking at this, where do I want that, you know, that chin part to start working? How far back do I want it to go on the head? And how forward do I want it to go on the head? Right, that becomes something important for me, what I want to do there. Okay, hold on, I'm reading. By the way, for people who maybe... Okay, so I'm going to say, looking at this, I'm going to make it come all the way almost back here. So I don't need that. And, you know, it would be good to just, yeah, let's see. Let me look at it from this angle. Okay, so I don't want it there. Okay, that's a good spot. And I'm going to go back. Let's look at the ear. So the ear's right about there. We could go maybe to there. So I'm going to do this. Right? So the only piece that I care about is that right there. So let's delete the rest. So this is now where I want that chin piece to start coming out from. And now I'm just going to do a simple Q mesh. Okay, polygroup all simply will work. Something like that. Okay, so this is going to be the start of that chin piece coming down. Now, if I want to, right, I want to kind of have this follow a certain angle through here. So I'm going to use this and I'm going to rip off that topology. So it's just like that. I'm just going to rip it off. And ripping it off, I've got the polygroup. See, I'm Q mesh polygroup all. And I'm going to click and hold the control key. That'll rip it off. And then I'll make a little bit thicker again. So give it some surface. So now we have something like this. And I'm going to just position this now to where I want it to be. So let's go right here maybe. And I want it to rotate a little bit. something like this. And I want it to actually come in. And let's do a little bit of rotation like that. Let's come in a little bit more. Get a little more guarded to his face, maybe. Just kind of hug. It doesn't need to hug too much, right? They got to have room. And then I'm going to be putting some padding in here too, right? So I don't want to get too close to the face. I don't want to get too close to the face. Okay, maybe I want to do something a little bit like that. Okay, and if I want to now have a little bit more rotation, then I can have a little bit more rotation, so it becomes a little bit more flat. Okay, in there. And then you can even, if you want to, shrink it down a little bit. So it has a little bit of a taper, right? So from here to here, I want a little bit of a taper happening there. So let's go ahead and hover over face. Let's delete. Let's do flat island. Let's get rid of those faces. And let's get rid of those faces. And now all I got to do is I got a hole here and a hole here. And then I'm going to say, let's go ahead and bridge 2 holes. And now what do I want? A spline's probably going to be good. I don't know. We'll see. And I'm going to just click on an edge here. Click on an edge here. Whoops. Click on an edge here. And then just add polygons. I don't need a lot. Something like that's probably enough for a little guard there on his side of his face. Okay. So, and then while you're doing this, okay, there's polygroup options. So I can say polygroup flat if I want to. So then that way I don't have rows or columns. And so that when I go and do this, I'm clicking and clicking. And now left and right is moving the angle, and up and down will add some edge loops. I don't need a lot. Like, honestly, I only need probably, like, even that's enough. I don't need more than that. And then now I'm not liking so much where this is, so I'm going to Control W this, okay? And I'm going to say, okay, let's see. Hold on, sorry. I think I see something up on the top I messed up on. Hold on, I want to check something. Okay. Sorry, I wanted to check something. So we'll delete, bridge, right? And then I don't need a lot, so just a couple. Yeah, that's good enough. And then I'm going to say insert. Yeah, see it is. It's not. I'm going to get rid of, let's start getting rid of some stuff here. I don't like this. Let's get rid of, let's say that face, that face, that face, that face. There, that's, I like that better. And let's go insert an edge loop back here. And let's get rid of that face, that face, that face. And yes, I definitely messed up here on the top. So it looks like I, at one point, did too much talking with you guys. I messed up here on the top. So let's get rid of that. We don't need that. I didn't undo back after I was explaining to you guys what I was doing. So we'll do this. We'll do, whoops, we'll do, okay, this one, we'll get rid of this. All right, so that we can delete hidden that, and then now I'll just bridge this. Just 2 edges. Clean up what I messed up. Okay. All right, so then this is a little bit more where I want that to be. Okay, and then now I'm going to say this, and this can be its own polygroup right now. So we'll QMesh, polygroup all, and then just have this connect back into there. And then now I can start using the slide to start even just changing the form a little bit. Just evenly distribute those a little bit more. And then this is obviously where I'm going to go. We'll make a new polygroup. And then in fact, I don't think I need this. We're going to get rid of this for now, that one right there. And I'm going to say polygroup, polyloop. And then let's make the 2 their own. So polygroup island. We'll make those islands. Or we can come here and just say auto groups. And then now, of course, I'm going to turn this on. right, to give me that. And then this is that metal piece. So I want to have some creasing. So I'm going to crease by PG. And then there we go. I've got that metal piece on the side of his face. So I just did a little tweaking there. All right. So Q-mesh is way better than used than extruding, because extruding, you'll get kind of what happened to me. What happened to me is I undid and redid and undid and redid too many times. So now that I have this, let's continue adding some elements to this. Let's make this look cool. All right. So let's take this and say, all right, I want to have, like, mine, right? I had a repeating element here and I had something here. So let's do that. Let's take advantage of these items. So I'm going to duplicate this right now. So we're going to call this chin guard. And actually, let's just main chin guard. And then I'm going to duplicate it. And then I only need this part. This is the only part that I need right now. So I'm going to delete the rest. And then now I'm going to say, let's insert an edge loop. Let's put one right here and one right here. And then I'm going to delete that one. And then I'm going to make this its own polygroup. So we have that. And then I want a little bit of a gap. So I'm going to put one there. And then let's put another one there. And then make, whoops, and make these another polygroup. Right, so I want some elements like that. So let's get rid of the pink parts now. So let's delete those. Let's go ahead and crease, so the outside. So when we start doing this, we want that to still follow the path, right, that I'm doing here. It's pretty important. And what's going to become important for me also is this middle edge right through here is actually going to become very important to me. All right, so we're going to do some stuff with this middle edge coming down the pipe here. It doesn't matter that the piece isn't actually physically attached to the helmet, right? Like, but it's connected. So I can connect them down the pipeline. I can make them connected. Obviously, I could have drawn out from there, but when they're making this, you would have this separately anyways. Probably for a game model, they're not even going to probably necessarily connect that. They will, they could, but they also could just retopologize it with it connected. It's not going to be too crazy. And then for 3D printing, it's intersecting, so it's not going to be a problem. So the feathering effect on the bottom and the top is happening because right now I'm looking at thin planes. So let's first establish some thickness. So let's get some thickness. Let's have no smoothing. Let's see how much this is going to start coming off the surface for me. So let's go a little bit more, and let's definitely make sure we're more coming out than in. All right, and then add a little bit more. Maybe not. Dial it back, Paul. Dial it back, Paul. A little happy. Got a little happy there, Paulie. Actually, I'm gonna keep it at 0. Actually, I kind of like it at 0. I just want a little bit of a ridge here. I don't want anything serious. And then now I apply that, and once again turn it back on. Let's turn off, and let's put our smoothing back on. And then now crease by the old PG, and I'm even going to crease now the corners. Change the crease tolerance to 45, and now we have that, right? And then this is what I wanted. I wanted something like this. Now let's do a little bit more to this. Because then the beauty of this being also a separate subtool is I can assign different materials to this too, down the pipe. So I want these maybe to be different materials. So I'm going to solo this out. Let's just have some fun with this now. Let's go insert multiple edge loops. I'm going to keep the polygroups, and let's have it interactive. And let's do something like this. And I'm going to say this face. Let's pull this face off. So let's Q-mesh this now. And let's pull that off just a little bit. Not a ton. Just enough. Just the right amount. Okay, so we got that little ridge. And I'm going to go with, let's actually delete. So you can even delete an edge. And then delete an edge loop here. That one. And then now I've got, see, just that simple little bevel point happening. Right, which that's going to catch light for me. Right, and that's, I like it. Adds a little bit of something different there. And then for this one, let's do something else. Let's do a little bit of a ridge. So let's take this face, this one. So I'm holding the Alt key, and I'm just tapping on those faces. Tapping on the faces. Make them to be a temporary white polygroup. And then what I'm going to do now is when I Q-mesh, it comes out. Okay, something like this. I'll make sure to crease those corners again. And then now that I have this, I'm going to say polygroup. Right, but I might want to do a flat polygroup so that I can pull out a little bit of a ridge. And then once again, let's crease it, the corner, so we get just a little ridge. Just something small. And if you guys want to make this to go a little bit wider, then this is where maybe you come in here. Right, and I say again, Q-mesh, flat polygroup, and I can just hold the shift key and make those come out a little bit wider. Maybe you want to have a little bit of a taper in here. Right, you want a little bit something, just a little bit more substance in there, right? So you can do all this is obviously up to you what you would want to do. Okay, and then if you want to, I can just take all these faces right here. I can say polygroup, and then we can say flat island. And here, let's change it so it's green. And there. And then let's also do it there. So we're good there. And then now if I Q-mesh this time, with it in all polygroups, then the whole, see, I'll create a whole ridge like that. Maybe I just want a little bit more of a thicker ridge, something like that. Right, so there's that part starting to come together. Now I want to add a little bit more to this guard that's on his face. Yeah, I'm going to show the feather section, don't you worry, 100%. So let's first put the guard on. Let's put a little something else on here. So I'm going to duplicate this once again. So we got that right here. Let's duplicate this. And let's rename this. And guard frame. That framer. Frame. And I'm going to say, let's take a look at this polygrouping. Perfect. That's what I need. I'm going to apply. Delete. Once again, I'm going to show just these two polygroups. That's all I need. So I can delete the rest. By the way, clicking on two polygroups at once, you guys click on any vertex point that's sharing the two polygroups, and we'll give you both. And then now, you could go somewhere else, but I preferred using the curved tube for this one. And then going to stroke, and then say polygroup frame, and then just tap. And then there's a nice little framing going around now. But of course, you guys can use whatever you want, right? Don't forget, we got this awesome extruder. And you guys can put the same thing that was on the top of the helmet here. But you can try different ones. Try different ones and tap and see what you get. This is what I love about this brush. Just something a little different, right? To look at. Okay, so it's up to you what you want to do here. I'm kind of going to stick with what I originally had. I kind of like having that roundness there. All right, and then now just tap anywhere to delete the curve. And now I only need that part now. So remember, I'm using a duplicated portion. Right, so the only thing I care about is, in essence, is this part. I only care about this. So I can delete the rest of it, right? And then there's my frame. Okay, and then now you guys want to know how to do this feathering. Let's do that next. Okay, and then we'll do the Celtic part, and then we'll do the inner part next. All right, so let's do the feather portion. Let's add that. Let's go make a feather. All right, I need to do that. All right, so I'm just gonna quick save just for giggles. So I have a quick save while I take a drink because we're working on this helmet. Working away. What are we looking at? Time. How's everyone doing on time? Artie, I like where your mind's going. I really like where it's going, but that's not what I did. All right, let's go. Cube, make poly mesh, boom. Let's turn on polyframe. And I'm going to replace this with this cube. And let's go 1, 1, and 1. And then let's make it a lot skinnier. Okay, and then let's just use the gizmo. Let's quickly just gizmo this up. So we're gonna have that taper down there a little bit. We need the front to kind of become a little bit more like that. All right, let's go ahead, ZBrush modeler. Let's insert another edge loop, like right around in there. Let's insert another one right around in there. Just have a little bit more that I can even play with here. Let's insert another one right there. And then now let's slide this one. I don't like where that one's sitting. Let's slide that and slide that a little bit. Okay. All right, so let's throw on some dynamic. This is what I have. I need to look at it, what it's going to look like in a dynamic state. Let's go ahead and crease because I want more of this. Now this is where why I've added some more edge loops. So I'm going to say, let's go and make this symmetrical. So I'm going to now go along the Y. I'm going to turn on my local sim. And once again, I'm going to hide my mask and just start shaping this a little bit more to be a little bit what I want. And this is why I added the edge loops, just to give myself a little bit more control to get the shape that I want. Okay, I've got that. That's what I'm looking for. Let's take this edge. Let's actually delete it. And I'm going to Q mesh by polyloop. Let's go ahead and pull that out. Something like this. Okay, and then I want to, let's pull, so this is what I'm doing like this, right? So then I'm going to pull this out from here. Let's do that, and I'll tap because I want the same thing on the bottom. And then now I'm going to take this and just pull it out like that. So we're getting something now that starts to look like this. Okay, and then what do I want the tip to start looking like when it starts dividing, right? So how do I want this to look? Okay, so right now, there's creasing here. So I think I like it without the creasing a little bit, something like that. Okay, I like kind of that roundness there a little bit more. And in the front, I prefer the creasing. I prefer something more like that. Okay, and then let's not forget, when you guys switch the slide, you can keep changing the shape. And you can keep tweaking what you want as your shape. And of course, if you delete some edge loops here, you'll completely change the shape. There, okay, that looks good. I'm okay with this. I like it. It looks good. All right, so now, what's going on, John? Welcome. So I'm going to say, we're going to draw this out. All right, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to look straight ahead. So I'm going to do multiple pickups here. So I'm going to say brush, and I'm going to create an insert mesh brush. And I'm going to say new. Okay, so, and then you can do one from this angle. So brush, and I'm just going to do it from here now so you guys can see it. Right, create insert mesh brush, and then it's going to ask me, do you want to append? I'm going to say yes. And then I say skip this node again. And then you can come in here and then even add an angle one like that. If you want to, brush, insert edge, append. Okay, insert one. So I just got different variations of this. I've got ones that it's looking straight at the leaf. I've got ones looking at the side of the leaf. I'm looking straight at the leaf with an angle. So there's just different variations for me. And obviously the name it's taking on is the name that's in here. Okay, so now going back to this, right, and looking at that, we want them to come along this path right here, right? That's what I'm looking for. So let's grab this again. All right, I'm going to duplicate that one more time. And you guys see my workflows. There's a lot of reusing the mesh. Okay, so, whoops. Here, we'll just call this leaves for now. And then I'm gonna, let's solo this out. All right, so for me, what's going to become important is this face, this face, this face, this face, and this face. Those are the faces that are gonna become important for me. Right now, what's important here is you can see the size of the faces, right? You see how big they are. If you go to say this one, see the faces are more consistent. Everyone see that? There's more just the polygons, right? The spanning is the same. Okay, so when you say, how do I change the angle? You're asking for the insert mesh brush, how I did that turn. I'll come back to that. So what I actually want to do is I don't want to use this because seeing this, I don't have consistent topology here right now. Right? It's not consistent. So I might actually forget this one. I'm going to use this one instead. Right? Because there's some consistent topology there. So I'm going to duplicate this one. And I'm going to say I need probably the polygons that are going along the middle here. So I'm going to do a Q mesh. I'm going to go to polygroup, polyloop, and we'll say there and there. We'll say these two right now. So I only care about that. Then I'm going to delete this hidden. I'll come back to that thing, how I did it. I didn't forget about you. Then I'm going to say I want them, well, let's look. I want they probably would make sense to stop right around here or right around here. Okay, so I don't need these faces up here. Right, and then down here, coming down, 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 I'm going to make them start like right about there. In fact, I'm going to go a couple more rows. I'll go there. So this is what I'm starting to have is this. So I'm going to polygroup this, auto group it. So that way I can now hide this section. And once again, we'll delete it because I don't need it. All right. And then now I'm going to also, I don't need this edge in there. Right. So what I got to start looking at now, this is a lot of repeating. There's going to be other ways too that I can do this. But this is just the concept for you all. Right. So once I show you this, I'll come back about how I did that angle thing. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I want one to go here, and then I'm going to skip. Let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. No, let's go. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then another one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then another one. So I'm going to put purple faces where I want these to end up. And so all I'm doing is I'm holding the Alt key and then letting go so it becomes purple. Obviously, another way to go about this is use a mesh that's less dense so that I don't have to do what I'm doing right now. But I'm just giving you guys the concept here. And then hopefully your minds will go. One of these maybe we'll make a, and then like I say, there we go. That's enough. Oh, I don't want that. I don't need that right there. Okay, so I got those repeating, so I'm going to say delete hidden. Now, back to this. You were asking about this, what I made here, this, right? And you asked how I made it angled. So I actually did a camera angle. I didn't move them, like I didn't switch to this, right? And then center it and then do this. I didn't do this. This is physically moving the model in space right now. So what I did is a camera movement. I did this instead. Right? So this is a camera movement. So it's like doing this. Like if I went to my camera and did this. Right? That's what it's doing. So all you have to do for this, right, so that way, because it's not physically moving in space, hold the shift key and then tap on the document and let go of the shift key. And then you can actually do camera movement like this. Okay? There you go. That's how I changed the angle. All right, so I have this as an insert mesh brush right now. So, and now I've prepped something like this. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the brush palette. Let's see, you guys, make sure my helmet's not blocking this. All right, and I'm going to turn it into a nano. And now all I got to do is I'm going to grab this one. And I'm going to come down here to a purple face. It really doesn't matter what purple face. And I'm insert nano, polygroup all, and then just draw it out. And so what this is doing is, here we're drawing out, there we go, nano. So this is making the leaves all be right there. Right, so now I can go to a bigger size. I can change the width of them even here, change the height. Right, and then I turn everything on. I can see all this happening live. I can play with the offset. So maybe I want them to sit more there. And then see, I also want maybe even play the offset in other directions. Maybe I want to move them a little bit more in the Y. Move them more back in the X. So this is why I didn't do array mesh. I want ability to do this. Plus then I can do rotations. Add a little rotation to it. So now they look like they're actually stacking. And then that's it. That's all I had to do those. Really simple. And it's a nice way to work on this, right? To get that repeating pattern that maybe I wanted to have on there, right? And I can keep making them bigger, smaller, and then I can visually see what I want to do with those and how I want to do this. The interpolation is not going to go along a path. So that's why I wouldn't use interpolation. This is just using the geometry that exists. Okay. White ornament for the shade. Would you? Leonard, yeah. Honestly, yeah, absolutely. Hit me up. It's just email me at paul@pixologic.com. All right, so let's do now some more to this. Okay, and what I'm going to do now is highlight something that you guys get now with ZBrush. Where's my mouse? Where'd she go? There you go. I'm going to come here to the file, and I'm going to open up XMD Toolbox. Okay, and I want to open this. Sorry, I hit the button to mute me. I muted me. So I want to be able to add some brushes to ZBrush. I can also do a lot more than just that. I can I can, like I said, sort the brushes. I can search for them. I can tag them. So it's really, if you haven't used this, I'd recommend going to get this. As a ZBrush user, you guys all get this, the toolbox now for free. Let me see. Let me see. Here it comes. I got to get it over my other monitor. Sorry. Okay, so here, my mouse is just playing. What are you? You keep. Hold on, sorry, that's how I hit my hand. Sorry, I gotta make an adjustment here. I can't get to my mouse right, so it's making it difficult for me to work. Oh no. Hitting my buttons. All right, here we go. So this is your XMD. Okay, so there's all your brushes that are inside of ZBrush are here, plus more. You guys can go download and get free brushes. So you can go here to your library and it'll open and you can find some brushes in here. And then you can do searches in here, right? So if you just do cloth, all of his cloth brushes will pop up and you got a bunch more. You got way more brushes in here now that you can use. You can even, not only that, but make tags. And as you can see, I made some favorites. And over here are the favorites. Here, let me make this smaller. Go a lot smaller here. And I'm just going to go smaller for, here we go. Right, so you have favorites over here. So all you got to do is star it and see it gets added to your favorites. And then you can unstar it. So, but you can also create multiple, like I could have made one called helmet here, and then I could have picked a color like a blue and said okay, and then check mark, and then see you would have made a tab here. And then now I can do this, this, this. And so all these brushes now, see, I can switch between. Like this is the nice thing about the XMD that you guys have now the ability to do. So again, you're just going, go to File menu and hit an Open XD. Open XMD. So I used his brush, this one right here. This XMD. And now all I want to do, if I want this in ZBrush, I just double tap. Okay, and then it's going to load into ZBrush. So, right, so I want this brush to go into ZBrush. Well, it should. Might help. Hold on, let me click on ZBrush. And of course, as I'm streaming, of course, well, I have to look. It should load it. Let me see. No, I don't know why. Huh. It's not loading the brushes for me. Sorry, like this is how I did this. I don't know why they're not loading because it's how I got all the damaged brushes. I'll have to look into this and see something's going on with my system. You guys can try it. Let me restart this. Hold on. I'm going to restart this and see. I'm just going to restart my XMD. You don't need to buy brushes on the site. He gives you a ton of free brushes. There are brushes to buy, of course, but he gives you a ton of free brushes. So just go get the XMD and then go in the library and you'll see the brushes that are free. This always works. I don't know why. It's something probably with my stream, why it's not working. Oh, this is probably why it's not working. It's probably not seeing the ZBrush. That's why. I know why it's not working. I actually, before the stream, I had to do some stuff and I had to reinstall ZBrush. So it's not looking at the ZBrush. That's why. That's on me. Sorry. And then let me go and grab this brush again. Okay, so this is the brush that I grabbed. Right, so there's these two brushes. There's borders and ornaments brushes in here. Okay. And I want to use these on this model. So in here, I can just start putting border, right? And then there it is. Okay, I don't know. I probably got to close ZBrush actually. Let's close ZBrush. Sorry, I should have had this open before, but I forgot to launch it. And I was doing a bunch of stuff beforehand. I got it. I'm sweating now with this sweater on. Pause, please pause. Please hold. Let's save this and let me just shut ZBrush down and open it back up. I need a little bit more air. It's getting hot in my little office here. All right, let's load a quick save of that. Load that up. How about the maze? We'll load that, and we will. Let me relaunch my XMD. And then relaunch that. So this, again, as you can see, there's a lot of benefits. And again, there is a free version of this. It's XMD 3.0 is what they're on. And there are a lot of free brushes that you can all go get in there too. So it comes in really handy. And some of these brushes, let's see if it's now telling. There you go. See? Told you it works. So then there's some brushes there. I'm going to use these. I'm going to use this. Let's grab some of the dent brushes. Just start loading. I'm going to use this one for sure. I'm going to use this one. I'm going to use that one, right? So you just double click and then they're being launched right into ZBrush. So now they're all inside of my ZBrush here. So I'm going to start first with this one. And then this is the one that I used. Let me get my Cintiq back to where it was. What I used for this chin part right in here. This portion right here. So I'm going to, let's put the dynamic back on. I'm going to look at this and go, let's prepare this for me. So I'm going to say this face needs a different color, and we'll make these be a different color through there. And I only want those. Looks like I got a little bit of an island there. And so I got this. Let's duplicate it once again. I want those polygroups only. And I'm going to first apply. Get those polygroups. I'm going to delete the hidden. Okay, and then this island of topology. Let's delete, and I'll go for where island. There, and that topology's gone. So I deleted all those faces. See, there was two planes there. So I can delete a whole island because this is not connected. So I can just delete it, and now it's gone. All right, and then now let's take that Celtic brush, this borders one, right? And this is what we're gonna get. So let's go a little bit bigger. Something like that. So do I want this one? Let's go maybe, I think I'm gonna go that big. That looks good. Or do I want this, right? And you can just switch and then tap and see which one you want. Right, so I went with this one. I just kind of liked it, but you know, if you want to simplify, I can go with a simpler design here. But I went with this one. So, and instead of me by hand drawing it out like that, that's again once, and we meet our own little friend here, stroke, and we frame it by polygroups, and then I just touch that. Right, it's just going to go right along that path for me. So then that's giving me this. Right, and so now I'm going to go, I'm good with this. Let's tap, let's get rid of the curve. And then I'm going to say, let's split it by unmasked points. That way, this is there. And then this piece, I don't need it anymore. But you can keep it if you want, but I don't need it anymore. It's not like I can't get it again. Just to keep myself organized, I'll delete that. And then now this piece is sticking a little bit out. Right? It's sticking a little bit out there and a little bit out here. This can be an easy solve. Obviously, you could just use the move brush and start moving it. But I'm going to say, I'm just going to throw a little extra in here. Let's do set to camera perpendicular. I'm going to do this. So now this is looking straight on that. And then let's use our old handy dandy. Let's use it, knife curve, and say, I don't need from there. Boom. And then come back down to here, and then click on a face down here. Boom. Right? And that's what that's doing, is making it look right at the camera. That's what I'm doing. I'm clicking on a face to make sure that looks at the camera. That's what I'm doing with this. And then now I'm just using that awesome new knife brush. And then there, done. It's that simple. Let ZBrush do some of the work for you. Okay? Doing good. Thanks for asking. So there you go. That's it. That's all how I did that portion. So the next thing that I want to do is create the part in here, and then we'll move on to the chainmail for you all too. So this was simple. This is, you guys are guessing it. First of all, I think this is a little probably too thick. So I'm going to do Q-mesh, polygroup all, and I'm just going to make it a little bit more thin like this. It's like a piece of metal. It shouldn't be, like that's super thick. It'd be super heavy on him. Let's go like maybe around that world. That's better. Right, and so now I need a pad here for a little, you know, so when it hits his face, it protects him a little bit. So once again, duplicate. Whoops, I'm not going to rename. I'm going to duplicate. Then I'll rename chin pad. And we got that chin pad. Once again, I'm going to look at this. I'm going to say I only want the purple. A lot of the same stuff we're talking about. Dynamic subdiv. Let's add some thickness. That's a little much. And I actually don't want any creasing on this. So I'm going to say uncrease all, and then I'm going to say post, so I get a little bit more rounded. I'm going to turn off the post, and I want it only going out more than in. So something more like, let's say something more like that, and give it a little bit more. How much of a padding do you want to give here? Let's say something like that looks good. Right, so I turned off the post subdiv so that the thickness is actually happening at a different time. With the post subdiv, the dynamics is dividing up, then doing the thickness. With the post subdiv off, it is doing the thickness, then adding the dynamics. Right, so this is what I want. This is what I'm going to want. This is the shape I'm going to want to have happen. Right? And so when I hit apply, I will now get also subdivision levels. If you turn off this post subdiv, when you hit apply, you'll get subdivision. If you have it on and hit apply, you get no subdivision levels. If you have it off and hit apply, you get subdivision levels. Because I want something a little bit like this, a little bit more rounded. Okay? That's what I'm looking for. Something a little bit more like this. And I'm gonna, here, looking at this, I'm gonna say, let's play with this polygroup and let's expand it a little bit more to do something like this. Let's Control W that. And so now I have these three polygroups. So I'm gonna now, once again, duplicate. I'm gonna go once again, delete lower, and I want this orange, and actually I'm going to shrink it a little bit more like this, and I don't need this anymore. Delete it. Brush, curve. Let's get that curve tube. Let's go stroke, and then this time border, and then tap. Whoa, that's big. We don't want it that big. Just a little bit of a, like a little bit of a ridge. Something like that. And then that's all I want. Delete hidden, and now we have something like that, right? So it just creates a little bit of a ridge. And even if after the fact, like if I made this ridge a little too big, so if I divide up, you can, if I get a little bit more topology, come in here and then just start de-deflating a little bit, right? You probably don't need to deflate, like a -1 is probably going to be quite a bit, see? So now it's just a little bit of a lip ridge there, and maybe you don't want that. Or you could use things like in here also, you can use smooth, right? Which will, or you could use polish a little bit, right? Start polishing that down and it'll slowly start to doing something like that. Okay, but I like what I got right now. So the next thing I want to do is I want to do something with this portion. And what I want is just this orange part right here. So I'm going to grab another one of those XMD brushes. I'm going to grab this one, right? Which is, let me get back to my XMD, which is this one right here. So you can see the name now, it's highlighted, XMDML, there. There's that brush, right? So he's already got a brush for me that creates a nice little pattern. So then now I just come back to here, right? And the way this brush is going to work by default, he's made it so you do this. Okay, so it's only at 14,000 polygons. So let's go a lot more than that. Let me make sure this is the one that's divided. Okay, yeah, we need a lot more than that. Let's go right around there. Right, this, and then now I can draw out. So you can see what it's doing. It's just drawing this pattern out. And then obviously I go with a bigger brush size. You can do something like this and like this. But I want this to all go in one location. So I'm going to tweak his brush a little bit. Right, so number one in the stroke palette, let's see what he's got on in modifiers. He's got the roll on. I'm going to turn that off. I don't want any roll. I'm going to change now to a drag rec. And in the brush palette, in the auto masking, he's got a directional. So I'm going to turn that off as well. And then I want a focal shift to be a -100 so that when I start drawing this out, this is what I want. And then now I'm going to say I need more intensity than 6. I want something more in that realm. And now my next problem is, okay, well, it's just this. Right? It's not enough. So I'm going to go into the brush palette. I'm sorry, alpha palette. And I'm going to go to modify. And I'm going to say, let's tile this. Let's try 3 by 3. And then see if that's the number I want. Might be a little too big. So maybe I want to go in the alpha palette again. Sorry, in the modify right here. Keep forgetting about my helmet. Let's try 4 by 4. And then drawing that out. Yeah, I think that's better for me. Something more like there. And then now what is really nice is I can still kind of adjust this after the fact. If I want to drop that a little bit more in there, then I can. And then that's it. That is how I did that padding in there. Right? And then, of course, I've been working without symmetry. So it's a little bit of on purpose. Because right now, this model's got subdivision levels. So I'm sure you guys know how to put one on the other side symmetrically by using things like mirror and weld. The problem with this is this has got subdivision levels. So in the plugins in Subtool Master, I can actually tell it to mirror, right? I want it to be the same subtool along the X and tell it to mirror. And it's going to say, this is how many polygons you're going to make. 7.6. Fine, make it. Go for it. Right, so you can actually do, with this, you can actually flip it and doing mirror. Oh, well, I just killed it. And I still, sorry, I had it masked. I forgot to clear my mask. So it caused a problem. That's why it looks weird. Forgot to clear my mask. But anyways, Subtool Master Mirror will allow you guys to, in essence, mirror and weld with subdivision levels. And it'll maintain your subdivision levels, actually. All right. So just a little fun fact for you. Even if you, like me, I started creating this without subdivision levels. It's not, I mean, without symmetry on, it's not that big of a deal. There is ways to fix it. Okay, hold on. I'm just going to bring this back over here. Make sure, don't do what I did. Make sure you clear your mask. Let's, right. See. We'll go back to this one. All right, so now let's move on to the chainmail, because this is actually quite simple. Because we're running out of time. I unfortunately have to go soon. So I want to make sure you guys also see how I did the chainmail. And then also the flowers on the top. So now what I want to do is do that chainmail that's coming around. So once again, it's a repeating theme here. I'm going to say chainmail. Well, I like to have caps in mind. Moving along, I've got this duplicated once again. I'm going to drop to the lowest subdivision level. I'm going to delete it. I only care about that polygroup right there. So then I'm going to delete now the rest of it. The modeler, I'm going to delete that because we don't need it. And then this one I don't need anymore. So again, once again, I'm going to go to delete. And I'm going to do an island and delete that. So what I have left is this. So now this is, where do I want my chainmail to go? So I'm going to say I want it, I think right there. I just wanted to come along right here. That's really the only spot I want. Is right along there. So then I'm going to, again, see this. And let's delete that. So that's gone. And I want I can do a couple things here. Take my Q mesh, polygroup all, and then just do something like this. And then this is just seeing, I can get a read on, is that really where I want it? Maybe I don't want it that far ahead. I think it's a little much. So let's get rid of that one. And let's get rid of that one. Let's put it, because the ear is covered now with this. Yeah, let's do that. At least that ear, the back of the ear is now covered. Going to be covered a little bit better. Now that I have that, so I want to now repeat this. Okay, and because I have faces, I lost my webcam. There we go. Now that I have these faces here, I'm going to tell ZBrush, let's Q mesh, polygroup all. So what we're going to do is this. But I'm going to add one thing to this. I'm going to say, I'm going to come down here and say, by the brush. So now that I do this, I can start repeating, see, the same number of spans. Okay, so once again, let's make sure this is the same polygroup. Let's just flat island this just to play safe. There you go. And then now I'm just going to do this. Right? You're going to pull Q mesh on this. See, it's just doing, and then your draw size is what's going to control the spans. The number of spans that I'm actually going to get. Okay, so then this will help me say, how long do I want this to be? As an example. So again, you go to Q mesh, okay, while you're hovering over a face, and then change it to draw size. You can even put in a slider, and then I'm just doing it by the draw size. I'm going to say about there. That's enough. I don't want any more than that. So I have this. So I'm going to look at these portions in here. I'm going to say, let's delete that. Let's go ahead and delete those faces, those faces. I'm actually going to now delete, I don't need this island. Okay, now I have these. And I'm going to make this one polygroup. Right, and if I wanted to, I could put an edge loop in each one of these, like this, just to create even more spans through here. So they're not, the polygons aren't so long. So they're just more of a squared shape in here. And then when you smooth it, right, we're going to start messing around with this. And what I'm going to do, this is how easy it is in dynamic, I'm going to smooth it. I'm going to turn down all this to 0. And I'm just going to use micropoly. And there's already a chainmail right here. Done. Chainmail. Done. It's that simple. That's easy. And then if you turn up your smooth, you'll get more chainmail. It'll get smaller. Right? So I'm getting more. So it really comes down to turning the model on and seeing how fine of chainmail do you actually want to have. Like this, probably this particular one, I might want to go this low with it. And then the nice thing is this is a plane. So this is going to allow me to start, I can even manipulate this a little bit and start changing where this sits because it's chainmail. It shouldn't be so perfect. And then we're going to be able to start using things like dynamic on this and really start having some fun with this. To the point where we can even, with this plane, mask out even the top portion if I want to. Go to dynamics and then say, let's go 0.1 inflation. Now it calculates this. And then now switch to cloth brushes. So something like just the hook. And then now see I can, so if you wanted to bunch up, you can bunch it up. You want to move it, just adding a little bit more to this. Just so it's not just so simple. And then maybe mask it like this. I'm just blurring the mask a little bit. And because it's a plane, it's super simple, right? It's not crazy complicated here. Right? And I can switch even back to a move brush and still move this plane around wherever I want. Yes. There. Happy little trees. Happy little. Okay, and then what I did is I took what I was doing here with this chainmail and said, well, I want to add, like I don't want to just hanging from this. I want to add some kind of other element to this. I want some like leather. What did you miss? This is a plane. Is it a plane? Is it a polygon? No, it's nice. Write that one down, Pro 4210. I like it. All right, so then all I did here next is I actually duplicated the chainmail, turned off the micropoly, because I don't want the micropoly on this one. I just want the plane. That's all I want. Okay, and then this is what I have now. I have something like this. And what I want is a little bit of thickness. So I'm going to go Q-mesh, polygroup all. Well, not that much. And let's turn off the brush. Let's go a little bit like that. And then a little bit like that. Okay, so we just have something like this. And what I want is something else. So, in fact, making this even faster for me, I'm going to say inset polygroup all. And how about I just do a little bit of an inset here? Something like, maybe something like this. In fact, I'm going to delete this edge loop up here, actually. I don't want it. And then now I'm going to inset. So I can go a lot bigger with my inset. Something like this. Then all I want is that. This is actually how I did it. And then delete it. And then now just turn on dynamic. And then give yourself some thickness. Okay, and then now smooth it. And I'm going to crease it along the borders. And then this is like a little bit of a leather piece that I'm going to start going around and making this look like. And then this is the part, right, that is being used to attach to the helmet. Okay, we'll pull my helmet up for the last time so you guys can see all this. And then here's another example of the gizmo going to come in handy with this. Because now I can say I want this subtool and I want that subtool. And right here, I don't like what's happening right there. So then I can now up, this focal shift, and kind of even position these. This is what you could not do before. And then this side too, I'm going to come over here and just reposition this a little bit more. In the back maybe, I want to come up actually a little bit here. So it's a nice tweaking, and it's not moving everything. It's only moving where my gizmo is because I've upped my focal shift, right? And then giving me something like this I start to have. And let's put a focal shift back down to -100. And then for this part, I decided to, let's smooth it up more. So it starts kind of softening, right? The crease is maybe a little too much. So I'm going to say, let's apply and then now apply the smoothness. So it'll just round it out a little bit better for me, right? It'll round that out a little bit more. And then I say apply and then divide up and then even divide up again. And then I liked using, for me, which XMD also has more brushes that are cloth brushes. But I like this cloth pinch brush. Is a cool brush to use. So I can just start pinching along the border here. Something like that. And it looks like it's being pinched down, right? So creating, that's where the chainmail is coming in. You know, if I go smaller, you know, you can do a different type of pinching coming through here. Okay, and then obviously larger will give you a different type of pinch through there. I'm just quickly trying to make it look like it's got a little bit border and edge through here. Very subtle. So this is kind of the stuff I would start doing to push that element even more. Okay, so the other thing then that I did was I did the helmet part. So I wanted to create some kind of design. So I wanted some floral looking design. You could, if you wanted to, use a curve with it, if you wanted to, for sure. That's something you could do. But there's ways to even use dynamics, mask out, and then dynamically do this. I would dive into it, but unfortunately, I want to get to the front of the helmet because I got to get going. So I want to make sure you guys see also how I did the front part of the helmet. You guys have gotten everything else, how I started to do everything else in here, right? So the front part of the helmet, I was using something we've been talking about all day today. I just took a sphere. In fact, I'm going to use this sphere instead. And I say 24, I'll go one more, I guess. And then I used the gizmo. I just said, okay, let's stretch this out to be kind of like a little bit of a banana looking shape a little bit, just a stretch spherical. Then I went into here and I set this where I wanted, and then I used rotation. And then I went over here, and then I rotated the other way. And then I went in the middle, and then maybe rotate a little bit like this. So I started creating shapes like what you guys are seeing right now. And then just editing and changing. Now I'm going to drop this down so it can be a little bit more of a larger deformer. So you see the difference right? If you guys are dropping your focal shift, it deforms see more of the mesh. Higher is localizing it. Okay, so I'm just looking to do something like this. Just start creating some kind of little element like this. All right, so that looks pretty good for me. Now I'm going to switch now to the, excuse me, to the tube, curve tube. So this is going to allow me to do stuff like, I got to get rid of my subdivision levels. It's going to allow me to do stuff like this, where I can just draw out other things. All right, but I'm going to do a couple of tweaks to this. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to stroke. And then I'm going to tell ZBrush, let's go to the modifiers and let's change the size. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the size to be a little more, have a bulgy a little bit in the middle, but I want it to taper at both ends. So now when I draw this out, I get that, a little bit of a taper starting to happen. Right? And if you want to affect your taper, then you put these up, these ends up, and then the taper won't be such a small point. See, it'll be a little something more like this. Now, this is using a curve as well, so I can tap and start manipulating and moving. So this, I can adjust it after the fact. Now, was one other thing that you guys might want to do with this is use the picker. So in the picker, there is a depth. So you can see there's a one depth. So this is looking at the one depth that I click on when I draw out. So if I'm way out here, see it's looking at this depth. And then I can move it, and then that's where I want it. But you guys can also say where you want it. So you can pick your depth like this. And then when it's drawing out, it's going to keep using that depth that I picked. Right? So this is all I did for trying to do some of the flower parts in here. But then you guys can also just move things around. Okay? And then I'll do a temp, do a little one. I'm gonna move that. Okay, and then I'm gonna go back to once. So you gotta make sure you actually select this. Like this has got to be selected too, if you're gonna use that. Right, so you see where it's sitting? And I'm just quickly putting some stuff in here. We can do this, but then I can also come to here and say, how about maybe you want to even do a different type of rotation. Let the gizmo kind of do some work now for you, right? Using this, coming up in here, rotating that, and now moving it a little bit more somewhere else, giving it a little bit more. Maybe now let's turn this off. Maybe I'll do it like a double thing here. Okay, so it's just taking initially a sphere and then using that gizmo, and then I'm using the curved tube to just keep adding some other little elements to it. So I'd probably go off like this, and probably move that in space. Just reposition this maybe more. Something like that. Actually, I prefer that. And then now maybe I want another one right here. Right, and then again, just like we did on the helmet, I'll start doing little ones. Then moving that into place where I want the little one. Tapping to get rid of the curve. Then maybe now another little one. Moving that into place. And you can use the curve to also move things into place. Say move that there. Just stuff like this. You guys get the idea. So then the next thing that I did is I wanted to have a brush, right, with some flowers. So I've already pre-made one. So I'm going to load that brush that I have. So let me grab here, flowers. Right, so I have a brush that I made that has different flowers and leaves in it. As you can see, there's just different flowers and leaves in there. I'm going to grab this one. And then now I just tell ZBrush that, hey, I want to put like a flower right there. I want a flower right there. Maybe I'll put one there. Let's rotate that one a little bit more like this. Then I'm going to put one there. Size that down. Whoops. Size it a little up. Maybe have it be a little bit in there. Right, so it's just wherever I want one, I plop one. It's not complicated. It's pretty simple. It's pretty straightforward. And then another one there maybe. And then doing that. So then the beauty of this, obviously, what I'm going to take advantage of is my document is a certain size. I'm going to switch to a standard brush. So my document is 2119 by 1280. It's my document size. And I'm just reading the question. What about the chainmail? What more did you want to know about the chainmail? And so now I'm going to just frame this, and we're going to use this wonderful new bas relief. And I'm going to up the contrast a little bit. And that's good. I'm just going to say make a bas relief. There you go. And then I just switch to drag rectangle. Go back to my helmet. And I want the helmet part, the top part up here. I'm going to need some topology, so let's divide that up. Let's see, I think I already have some, yeah. Let's divide that up. And then I'm going to turn on symmetry, and then now I'm just drawing out a bas relief. And then I want a -100 focal shift. And now I can just start trying different patterns. Right? I just made a bigger version, but of this. I'm just using the same alpha over and over again. But I made a couple variations to this. Right? So it's not so repetitive. Because right now it's super repetitive. Let's do another one down here. And let's do some inside ones here. Just creating a little bit of some elements in here. I have to see if I have the one. Right, so now that I have this, I can also adjust this after the fact. So I've been drawing these out, so I can just move down to, once again, before I drew them, hold the control key, click on that undo space again. Go back to when they're all drawn, and then now use the slider right above it, and I can even play and have these not pop off the helmet as much or more. And because I made the undo, it's messing with all of the strokes that I made in there. Okay? And there you have it. That is how I made the helmet that you guys are looking at there. So let me load the helmet again so you guys can see what mine looks like, and we'll look at all of it again. So you guys can see that. Well, are you talking about the chainmail? The chainmail you could just put on a normal map if you wanted to. And it's low polygons, actually. The chainmail is not dense. It's low polygon. When you use the chainmail from that micro poly, it's super low. It's not low at all. But then you can also just use the same plane and make a normal map, right? Projection to it. And then have those chainmail in the plane they originally made the chainmail with for game ready meshes, if you wanted to. right? So this is then this is my final one, right? And see, I put that in there, I played with the leather, made it come up in here. So I made it be inside, which made the most sense to be in here. And then I started using other XMD brushes, the slash brushes that they have. I started using these brushes here, right? And I just took this and drew it out, but I made a layer. So see, it's all on a layer. And so I can make another layer and actually switch back to that slash brush. Right, so you can put all that on a layer, which that's what I did. I put a bunch of dents in here just to start breaking it up a little bit. How I saved the brush, that flower brush, to making its own, it was quite easy actually. I just made variations. So all I did is I made a subtool. Okay, I had a tool like this. Let's align it along the Z. All right, and then so I just started saying, all right, I'm going to make this a poly mesh, and then I just started making different flowers. So you can use whatever I want. The flowers that I made, I actually used array mesh to make the flowers. Okay, so we do this, and then brush. Let's do a move. And I'm going to go stroke. Let's go transform along the Z, radial. I can just even use radial symmetry. I'm going to do this quick and really dirty. Like I used array mesh to do. It's a snowflake. Okay, and then now you have this, you duplicate it, and then now do a different one. Maybe you want to pull one out that looks relatively similar, but not exactly similar, then duplicate it, and now maybe you want to make a different looking one, right? So now do this kind of a thing. And now maybe it starts to turn. It's a windmill. Beautiful. Beautiful. Right? So then these, right, are all like snow. And then rename. Sorry, I'm just typing too fast. You get the idea. Whatever. Okay, and then now all you got to do is you look at them the way that you'd want them to be drawn out onto the surface, which is, this is how I'd want them to be drawn out on the surface. And then you just go to brush, and then in create, you're going to click right here, create, insert multi-mesh. That's it. You click that button, and then it takes all three elements. There, that's it. That's all you got to do. So you just make variations of what I did here for the flowers, and then you just put it in one tool, and then you just pull from that tool. There is the finished helmet for mine. But now you all can go and make your own. And hopefully I see you guys making a bunch of different ones. That'd be great. So I did not show how to get rid of the part from underneath. So you're talking about the fin, right? Sure, I can show that to you really quick. It's quite simple to do. It's using live booleans and this. Right, so if I turn this off, here, we'll turn this off for now. See, you can see my fins in there. Here, we'll turn off the stand. So see the fins right there? So to get rid of it, I just went, why don't I just use what the fin was made from, which is the helmet. Okay, so this is why I have different variations of also the helmet. I'm going to say, okay, let's grab this one. I'll duplicate it. Let's knock it down subdivision levels. Let's keep only the red portion, this portion for mine. And then I'm going to delete this and also delete hidden. Right, so now I have that. So I'll turn on display properties. Double. Okay, so right now we've got a fin there, but this red part, you can see it's sitting right where I want it. It's sitting at the intersecting part where I got that cloth inside. Okay, and I want to get rid of the fin now. So this is simple. I'm going to say brush Z modeler. I'm going to hover over this edge right here, and I'm going to say close. Okay, and you can just use this one if you want to. There, and close it. So now it's closed. And then I'm going to do a remesh of this. So I'm going to go to Z remesher. I'm going to turn on my groups. I don't need this smoothness. It doesn't even really matter if I have symmetry. I'll put it on and remesh it. So now at least I have that nice clean topology there. And then now I just did this. I took this piece and I moved it right below the fin. And so there's your fin. And I turn on subtract. And then fin is gone. And then the fin's still left there because you see it's not big enough to take that out. So just Z modeler. Right, just take the Z modeler and take this purple part. Q mesh polygroup all, and just extend it down. And then there you go. Gone. That's how easy it was to get rid of the fin. It's just using the same helmet again, duplicating it, and using live balloons. So hold on, let me see the questions coming through. It's not a matte cap. This is my own lighting. This is just standard material. So I'm just using a standard material here. I'm not using a matte cap. And I've made my own lighting. I began the stream with this. So this stream's going to be available. You can go rewatch it. It's the very first thing I started getting into. Is I just used 2 lights. And I got one of them as a rim light with warm. And then one of them is my key light. It's not an actual matte cap. You can convert this into matte cap. And then it'll always have this. It's possible to do that. You can do that if you want to. So there's many ways to create matte caps. Okay, but there is a possibilities to being able to do that. Okay, see, create matte cap texture. There's the matte cap. So there's the matte cap. So like even if you wanted this, like if you wanted me to give this to you, I can now just go grab any matte cap. Here, we'll even have matte cap gray. All right, and then in the material, down here at the bottom, it's just using an image. So I click in this, there's matte cap. This is in essence my lighting baked into a material now. But do you guys want this? I don't know if you guys want this. I can save it out if you really want it. I don't even know what to call this now. PG helmet? I don't know. What do we even call this? Because we want to keep it short. PG... Yeah, we'll just call it PG helmet. There. I saved it out. So you have it. If you guys want it. If you want it, email me here at Pixologic, paul@pixologic.com. Right? And then I can send it to you. I don't know if we can put it on. I don't know if I can maybe upload it somewhere and you guys have it on right from the YouTube. But you can go that way. I need to move my camera because I need to see what you guys' questions are that I missed. All right. Hold on. I'm just going back and checking questions. So you were asking, Chris, you were asking, but we have to save it to the interface though, right? So it will always be there. What are you referring to? The material? If you're referring to the material, yeah, if you want this material, then you need to go put it in your startup, Z startup folder within the materials folder within that folder. And then, or Or you can put in another, or you put it in Lightbox is another place for it to go. Okay, so question, Tom, about the 3D layers. Can we isolate them in custom menu or enlarge the layers menu access? Nope. No. It's because right now this subtool maybe that I'm on doesn't have any layers. So by default, see, there is nothing. And they're all, it's a generic layer, 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 layer. So when you go make a new layer, it now has a title. But then when you switch the subtools, this refreshes. This menu has to refresh to now look at that subtool's layers. And in this case, this doesn't have any. So no, you cannot custom menu the layer palette. It won't work. You can, but I'm telling you right now, it's not going to work. Because when you switch to another tool or subtool, that'll all be gone. And there's no way to expand it. Not at this time. Good question, though. All right, did I miss anything? Okay, Brian, thank you for reminding me. I don't have time to give you the created flowers, but if you email me, you can have the ones I created. I'll give you the brush. Just email me and I'll give you the brush. I just don't, unfortunately, I don't have time to walk you through how I created the flowers. And then, yes, there's an upcoming group stream. There's a multi-stream on Tuesday. I'll be in that. And that's going to be actually a night one for LA. So we're in the Los Angeles area. So there's a multi-stream happening, thank you for reminding me, Tuesday at 6 p.m. Los Angeles time. So we're going to have a bunch of artists with me, and they're going to be creating stuff. We're going to be talking. There's always some great tips and tricks in there. We've given them a little challenge. We've given them 2 challenges. So that should be a lot of fun. And then my colleague, Mr. Daisuke, is going to be having another stream on the 23rd. Okay. So we're calling the stream on Tuesday multi-stream, ZBrush Live multi-streams. And then Daisuke, who's in here right now, he's going to be going on the 23rd as well. And it's been below me the whole time. And right now also, up until the 28th, we are giving 10% off perpetual licenses. So if you don't own ZBrush yet, you got 10% off holiday special. And that's also 10% off. Those of you who are using ZBrush Core and want to get into ZBrush, you're also going to get an additional 10% off that upgrade for you as well. Multipass. 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 So what do you mean, Chris, by saving? Saving what? What do you want to save that will be there? Can you add a little bit to that? Just so I can answer your question before we've been together for 3 hours. Time flies. So I'm just waiting for Chris to write up the question. So I'm not sure what you were meaning, saving materials, saving the model. If you're talking about saving the materials, this is just for everybody. All you got to do now is go material, save, and then there's going to be 2 locations that you got, depending on what you want to do, there's going to be 2 locations. All right, so this is my Pixologic folder, right? All right, that is not ZBrush Core. You guys don't care about ZBrush Core. Hold on. Well, you care about it, but that's not what you're asking right now. All right, so ZBrush 2022. Then you can put it, if you want to see it in Lightbox, all right? If you want to see it in Lightbox, you can put it right here in Z Materials. And then so in Lightbox, you can just load it from there. If you wanted to always launch in your ZBrush, then the best place to put it is in Z Startup. And then there is a materials folder here. And if you put it in here, then every time you launch, it will have that material in your ZBrush. And then the same thing for brushes. If I have a brush that I want like, here's my flowers brush. If I want to save it, then I go to brush and I hit save as here. And then now I just put that where it's going to remember the last place from where I had it. So let me get to that menu again. All right, so then here, ZBrush 2020. If you want it in Lightbox, you go in here and so you can make a folder. So here's all the folders. If you want it to always launch, then you go into Z Startup, Brush Presets. So if you want it to always be in your ZBrush, that's it. That makes sense? Okay, and then deleting polypaint from all the model, you just switch to white. All you do is switch to white. So if I do something like, I do this, and let's see, color, fill object, now it's yellow. If I want to get rid of it, you switch to white, because in essence, white is no color, and then fill object, and see, now it's white. See, but I had it grayed. I had picked a gray tone for this. I wanted it a little bit darker. I just like, especially with the lighting that I did, I liked it having it darker. All right, can we erase something on a layer 3D without using morph target? Well, you could use the new adjust last. You could use the history recall brush. Holding the Alt key will delete polypaint on a layer, but not obviously sculpting, because that's then going to sculpt inward. Okay, so you can try all of those items, right? So if you're making a new layer and then you sculpt on this, okay, and then now you want to go back and say, I can even go back to here, come back to the layer, brush, history, whatever, and then see. And then that's on this layer. It's on the layer. Does that make sense? You can use the slice brush to make it 2 pieces if you want. So let's take this. A little dark for you guys. Make that a poly mesh. Let's go ahead and Dynamesh it, just because I don't want the pull. Okay, something like that. Okay, and if you want to use the knife, okay, so obviously it's going to do this. Wherever the gradient is, it's gone. However, if you turn on B radius, okay, and bending on your brush size, I'm going to go bigger just so you can see what's happening, right? You can do that. So it's using the brush radius to split it into 2 pieces. So obviously the smaller brush radius you go, right, the less of a split. You got to hold the Alt key when you do this. So you draw out the curve, then hold the Alt key, and then let go of everything. And then, so it'll make it 2 pieces. And how I pulled up the B radius is Control and spacebar together. Control and spacebar together. That'll pull up this, which this is actually found in the brush palette. So if you go to the brush palette, at the bottom, I'm going to get my helmet out of the way. It's right here. Clip brush modifiers. All right. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate it. Hopefully I see you all also Tuesday evening in the multi-stream. Don't forget about our Mr. Daisuke, my colleague, also going to be streaming. It'd be great to see you show up for his streams as well, if you're available. And I will continue to be watching my email. So you guys, I can once again have my email. So if you were looking for those brushes, just email me. Oh, well, it might help if I spelled my own name correctly. Okay, so you can email me if you want. All right, but this video will be available for you guys instantly as well. and then you're off and running. So this has been another ZBrush live stream. I'm Paul Gaboury for Pixologic. Hoping to see you guys again in another stream. I'm out. Have a great holiday.